All right, folks, what's happening? Welcome to another episode of Megaman Legends. And here, we got ourselves an interesting legend here. Now, I would say, you have your claws in the US, right? Ranging from Hokuto to JoshC to Money, then Myung. I mean, they got the cue balls, but I'd be thinking, where's the ground game at? You know what I'm saying? And this player, I by far has, I would say, one of the best claw ground games I've seen. And I mean, I feel like my praise is not enough, but he should totally be praised for it. And this man has a lot of ties to to the communities, whether it's ST or HF. And man has lived elsewhere at the other side of the world to play some ST as well, and some other games as well. So presenting everybody, welcome my man UltraSean to the episode. What is going on, my guy?
Hey everybody, this is UltraSean, and thanks for tuning in. And I'm very happy to be here, Megaman.
Yeah, man. I mean, I had this idea. I needed to have you on this episode because virtually not a lot of people really knows about your background like that. I mean, they have seen you in terms of you have been on trips to, pretty much Korea or Singapore, and then you've been playing some ST or HF or CE to say the least over there. And it's kind of funny because I feel like people just don't know where the origin of UltraSean happens from. You know what I'm saying? So I figured the best way to really explain that would be on this episode. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, of course.
So tell me, where did it all begin for you? When did you get into gaming, man?
Let's see. So general gaming, man, probably since I was a little kid, likely. I think a lot of us are getting up there in age, and I personally have ran the gamut of everything from, I would say, initially probably the NES, and then going from the NES to the SNES, all the way through PlayStation and 64. I really just about everything. I started with a lot of people, with Super Mario Brothers, the original one. Amazing game, really was at the time, man. It's ridiculous. Even Street Fighter 2. We'll talk about Street Fighter 2. I know we'll talk about that later, but that game has to be mentioned about how big that was at the time of its release and all that. It was absolutely nuts. The reception that it got and the impact that it had on a lot of younger kids, including myself.
Oh, that's good, man. I mean, it's funny because I think that first console was definitely the NES, and so it's funny. I started, I can't call it started backwards in terms of the Mario games because I started with Super Mario 3 as my first game. And then I was able to play Mario 1 with Duck Hunt, the one that has the combination with those two. And I would say I would say probably maybe 80% of the people I know has started with the NES console, but then there's some that kind of jumped because I remember when majority of the gaming for me kind of started from NES, and then it gets shifted towards Sega Genesis. I didn't have the Super Nintendo until maybe later, but that's how things would roll. So aside from that, now, so you started with NES, and you got into Mario Brothers in the gaming, in general gaming and everything like that. So along the lines, right? Let's go forward a little bit. What got you into fighting games, actually?
Let's see. Actually, so before we do that, I do want to talk about one thing since you mentioned that combo. Okay, so a lot of people, I guess, it depends on people's age. and I think that's really the biggest factor here. But I think it can't be understated just how powerful that combination was.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Super Mario Brothers and that Duck Hunt cartridge.
Yeah.
That thing really it basically brought people together, and it got that NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, into people's homes, because of course the kids want to play Super Mario Brothers, right?
Right.
But you also did have the parents and the uncles and this and that that weren't necessarily gamers, but of course they love Duck Hunt. And so Nintendo doing that was a pretty genius move in order to get those consoles into people's homes. I do want to, since you mentioned that, I do want to let people know just how impactful that was, right? Because you got your gamers plus your non-gamers also incredibly interested in a system that was a gaming system, squarely because of that combination cartridge right there, because of the Super Mario Brothers / Duck Hunt. That was a GOAT move by them.
Absolutely. And we are, thank the Nintendo for that one. I mean, to be honest with you, it's way better to have that combo cartridge than just the, separate one. I mean, Duck Hunt, I don't even think they had their own game, to be honest with you. But, I mean, it was totally worth having, because obviously if I remember when I was a kid, when my mom first bought the NES, it normally would have came with that as a bundle of itself. You had one controller, you had the light gun. So, man, now I just miss it. I just miss having that. But yeah,
100%. It was everybody played it. It was great. It was great. That was a magical. There's many magical times in gaming, Mega Man, but this was definitely one of them. Like one of the first ones, in my opinion.
Absolutely, man. But yeah, tell me. Now you got into general gaming, but now what led you into just playing fighting games early on then?
Okay, well, so initially the fighting games, it's I also can't understate just how much or just how big Street Fighter 2 was when it first came out. So that arcade game, let me tell you, man, so I come from a small town in New Mexico, and there wasn't like a whole lot going on there, but that town, even though it was the smallest one, it still had its own. It's still like, once Street Fighter 2 came out, it still had machines all over the place, and I actually very distinctly remember going into, I believe it's I think it was like a 7-Eleven, or no, sorry, Circle K, if anybody remembers what those were back at the time. It was a convenience store similar to 7-Eleven, and I remember going in there and seeing Street Fighter 2 for the first time, and man, initially I remember being extremely enamored with that game, and I remember seeing, like, I think it was Blanca's Electricity, and it's like, for some reason, his standing roundhouse was like, I was like, wow, when I first saw that move. Now, I was a little bit younger at that time, so I would be considered a huge scrub, I guess, by today's definitions, from that game. I mean, I just knew how to, how to press down roundhouse and jam the punch button for electricity, and things like that, things of that nature. I think at that time, the finer details of everything was beyond me. I was just too young, and there was no way I was able to hang out there at the time. But here and there, my father or parents would let me stop over there and spend a few quarters, and then we continue on, whatever. And so it was Street Fighter 2 was, man, that game was absolutely revolutionary. Like, it was, I don't know how to, I don't have enough good things to say about that, and I don't have enough words to say how, I guess, impactful it was at the time. It was everybody knew this game. I'll tell you this right now, everybody knew what the game was, at least because it was everywhere. So again, just like how we talked about the Duck Hunt, the situation with the Mario Duck Hunt combo, this was also another one of those situations, because Street Fighter 2 was so big that just even if people didn't play it, non-gamers, they knew that game because they saw it everywhere, on every corner store, every gas station, every grocery store, everything. No one stepped foot in an arcade. People that never stepped foot in an arcade, they knew what Street Fighter 2 was because it was everywhere.
Well, it's funny. It's funny about that. I think my first arcade when I was like younger in New York, I stepped into was actually. Let me see if I remember off the top of my head. It was like one of those arcades that I've seen. It was Funtime USA, and then from then, it was Funtime USA. Then I remember when I was younger, Chuck E. Cheese had like some cabs as well, and I remember during that time, that's when they had like. I saw like they had the cab. Now it wasn't like the big blue cab that you see today or anything like that. It was like one of those regular cabs that you normally see that had it pretty much had new, instead of HF, it actually had new challengers in it, which was kind of interesting. So I would say like even though it's like one of those how can you describe Chuck E. Cheese? Like one of those fun time places, but it has like a mini arcade right there as well. It's still an it's still an arcade, and people should understand how amazing it is to just go to an arcade, because the vibe of everything that goes on there is ridiculously amazing. Like the environment, like just seeing cabs left and right full of other games that you could play is just amazing. So save the locals, folks. That's what I'm gonna say. Save the locals, man.
cheap pizza and arcade games. You know what else? What else are we looking for here, right?
Exactly. You can't go wrong with the two. There's no way.
No. I think especially at that time too, that was still a huge part of Americana. Would be things like that. You go over to local Chuck E. Cheese. I think we had one called Pistol Pete's. A lot of different of those. Yeah, the fun time places, and you go out there, eat some pizza, get your greasy fingers all over some arcade games, and beg for tokens, and then go get those little cheap prizes off the little ticket machines.
Facts.
So those were some good days, actually.
Those were some good days, man. I surely do miss it. I mean, I hope it kind of just preserves, but who knows what will happen, to be honest with you, with today's state. So let's keep going, right? Now,
Sure.
You got into fighting games from the arcade, right? Along the way, because I know you said you were still a small town of like in New Mexico. Like, I'm pretty sure before, I would say you met with players, right? Were there like a small, I want to call it like a break period, you know what I'm saying? Where basically you didn't really kind of took it seriously until like later on in the years. Like in between that time, what were you kind of up to in terms of gaming? Were you just still doing regular gaming, or you were just focused on other stuff?
Well, it was kind of wishy-washy. So let me see if I can can put this into the right words. So for Street Fighter 2, during that time, back in the 90s, this was the early 90s, when it first came out. So again, World Warrior came out, huge. I cannot understate enough just how big that was. Okay, World Warrior was huge. It was everywhere. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew the sounds of the Hadoken and the elephant screaming in your ear and all that. Everybody knew it. Champ came out shortly after that, after World Warrior, and Champ was just as big, if not bigger. Okay, Champion Edition. I think in my area, CE was where it was at its apex already. So
Right.
CE came out. It was great. Again, at that point too, I was still just a young kid, so I didn't have really access to it beyond going there and maybe going to the arcade at the mall with a few dollars in my hand, and so I was never able to be really a part of that community, just because I was just a young kid still, and I didn't have the freedom and the whatever to be able to do that. So that part kind of bypassed me. So basically my gaming trends were it was what the trends were at the time, at each individual time. So I actually do remember my local arcade getting the new challengers. It was the big it was, I think it was the eight person setup. I think it was. Yeah, I believe it was either the 6 or the 8 person setup. I believe it was the 8, which were all 4 big blues. And at that point, it's funny too, because I actually rarely saw hyper fighting anywhere. I think in my area, CE was the apex. I do distinctly remember being on a field trip somewhere, and I believe it was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and at one of the restaurants there that we were eating at, they had a CE cab, and I remember this one dude getting real upset because I was cheesing him with Bison Cycle Crusher. So I'm sure we all know how difficult that move is to deal with. So imagine how difficult that move is to deal with against somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing,
Yep.
And all I knew how to do was also the same thing too, was just charge back forward punch and just do the Cycle Crusher. And I remember this guy who was so pissed, he was so upset about that. Already the start of the cause of fights was because of that. But generally the gaming trends at that time were what was coming out, so we'll say going past the arcade, it went to the 64. I unfortunately did skip the Genesis generation because I had, the Super Nintendo, and in those days too, your parents were only buying you, man, like a couple of games per year, if that.
Yeah.
Like you had to, if you're a kid and you're probably trading for games, or you're maybe borrowing it from your best friend, and things of that nature. It was very rare in my area that you were gonna have like a whole boatload of video games. It was just like a 1 or 2 per year type deal, and then that's that. Later on, I want to say, again, aside from the arcade, just whatever would come out. So I think past the Super Nintendo was the 64. I remember being very enamored with Mario 64 and thinking like, wow, this is amazing. One of the greatest things I've ever seen as far as gaming goes was Mario 64. And then later, even, starting going with PlayStation 2, I remember the Tomb Raider, the original Tomb Raider game, made a huge mark on me, and a lot of other games too. This is not just, 1 or 2. There's a lot of stuff for each system that I was really happy to play. I think my favorite console of all time, though, was probably I would say the 360. I think that's because that's when online really was around and available for everybody, and that's when we started having the Halo games online. And I remember one of the games I used to love playing was Gears of War. That was to me, that was a pretty big one. And I think around that time is when Street Fighter 4 came out, if I remember correctly. And that's when I had started kind of dabbling in some fighting games and all that. But again, I would just go out there and play it, but I wasn't really thinking about like high level type stuff. It was just going out there and playing and having a good time or whatever. And I remember though meeting some people in Albuquerque who were actually really good, and including a person who's still a friend of mine now. Every time I'm back in New Mexico, he comes over and we play some on my Astros a bit. His name is Jimmy. So I got to talk about him for a second, because you know how there was always rivalries and factions within towns, right?
Right.
This person from this town is we got to represent our town, and anybody else is we got to stop them at all costs. So there was this guy, there was a gentleman by the name of Jimmy, and I remember he was from Los Lunas, which was the town that I was from. Mm-hmm. And he would show up with another guy named Justin, and they would come up to some of these weeklies, these Street Fighter 4 weeklies that I would attend. And I remember seeing So I remember seeing him. He would show up, and nobody knew who he was, but he was just some dude from Los Lunas, right? And it's funny though because he was wrecking everybody, and funnily enough, he was using Street Fighter 4 Claw, okay, which Street Fighter 4 Claw wasn't really high tier, and if I remember correctly, he was about mid tier. But man, this dude was so good with Claw, and I remember he would wreck a lot of like Albuquerque's best players, and they'd be hating on him for a while because of it. You know, you could tell they were real upset when he'd show up and be around because they knew they were a lot of them knew they were going to lose, and then the top player, it was like a 50-50. Okay, like even he, as good as he was, did fall prey to his handle. I think is Destroya. Yeah, Destroya. So a lot of people fell prey to his Street Fighter 4 Claw. So that was, I do have to give him a shout out though, because he really came in, and I was able to really see what like high level play was as far as Street Fighter went. But I still wasn't really part of that, aside from going there here and there and just playing some games, because you know, life happens and we're doing our things and all that, and then shortly after that actually is when I took a huge break from all that, because that's when I moved over to Singapore. And then, man, I want to say for about 8 years, I probably didn't. I don't think I touched one game. I would say about 8 years. I don't think I really touched once. Or you know, I remember I'd play a game for like 5 minutes and then I had to go turn it off and go do something, because the way Singapore was out there was like always something to do and always something to go see and this and that. And so it took a while before I like got back into the FGC proper and all that. So yeah, I would say up to about the 360 was where the swan song was there for a while. And then after that is when I took my big hiatus, so to speak.
Oh, okay. I see. So tell me more. Like the move to Singapore, right? I know you said you just had like everything. There was a lot to do that's out there, right? In terms of like whatever to do, like. But kind of explain to me more. What was it? What was it like living in Singapore for 8 years?
Let's see here. So let me tell you about the place itself. So Singapore itself was very forward looking, I think, and I think probably to a lot of people it would almost be like it would be somewhat futuristic. I don't know if that's a good way to describe that, but I guess that's the best way for me to describe that, especially someone coming from the town like I came from. So yeah, I would say that it was a super nice place, and they had all their, let's see, the way that Singapore was run was there was always development happening, and the trends were always like, that was one of the central hubs. I think it was like that place and maybe like Hong Kong or something were central hubs for like innovation and tech and this and that. And it basically, Singapore is like an island state. So it's a country, but it's probably the size of like a big city. Okay. And so it borders Malaysia, and it has its own economy, its own governments, its own this, its own that. But one of the nice things about this place is that the things like when you think of things like here in America versus out there, right, it's sometimes completely different. So we'll talk about like public transportation, right? So that public transportation out there was super nice. Like everybody used it. It was nice and clean. It was well run. It was maintained. It was, again, like I said, the vast majority of Singaporeans and foreigners, including myself, we all use that. It connected seamlessly. We had underground, like the subway system. That connected seamlessly with like the bus system, and they had like this whole like taxi fleet. Man, hard to explain. It had it was the neon lights everywhere type of city. But basically it was extremely first world, extremely first world city. and the place was so clean. It was so nice. It wasn't, you know how if you go outside of in New York or LA, whatever, and you see, if you look down on any sidewalk and you're gonna see gum everywhere, right? Huge thing. That's you see gums on the sidewalks everywhere, no matter where you're at in the city. So in Singapore, there was nothing like that because they had, you know, certain rules that people had to abide by that kept the place like really clean. Again, transportation was efficient, the housing was efficient. It was since it was like a central hub, it was a major player for like all like entertainment, arts, all this stuff like that. It went through Singapore first before it got to the States and all that. So a lot of times you'll see movies and SG, which is just the short name for Singapore. So a lot of times movies would get there first. It would debut about a week before we got them in the States and other places. Let's see, and then and also my job too. It was great. I was in LA at the time, and I was doing some auditioning, and I landed a part in one of the. Initially it was one of the parks in Singapore. It was Universal Studios, and then later on I actually transitioned to Universal itself, and we did like behind the camera work and some in front of the camera work and different places. Like it would start off in SG, and we do like commercials in Malaysia, and then sometimes in Indonesia, and then a few times in China, which was pretty cool. So I think at that time, like I'll tell you, man, like at that spot, life was pretty nice, and I, you know, there was just so much stuff to do, and I was, you know, we would always go and hang out here or there, or you know, we'd take a quick if you wanted to go on a vacation, right? Like over here, vacation is it's tough because you're just here in the U.S. and that's about it, right? If you're going to vacation, you're likely going to a different state or something like that, okay, or maybe a different town, whatever. Out there, let me tell you, man, like it was so nice. The plane tickets were cheap, so if you wanted to go to Thailand for the weekend, you could buy tickets like Friday night at 6-7 o'clock, and then head out there real quick to Thailand, go enjoy your weekend, and you can come back around Monday at, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the morning, go straight to work from there, and you were golden. And I mean, like anything, you go to Korea, you can go to China, you can go to Vietnam, all these places, real easy to do, like super easy to do. So out there, life was pretty, it was a different kind of thing, and there was really no time for like games and stuff like that because there was always a lot to do and all that, and so yeah, for quite a while, I think that's where it was at. It was definitely a fun ride, and I think it's a ride that not a lot of people get a chance to be able to do, you know. So I was happy to do it, and very grateful to do it, but you know, it was yeah, I can't talk enough good things about it. With what did fall through the cracks though in that point was gaming again, because there was just no point in it because there was always so many other things to do.
I see. Well, that's interesting. Did not know a lot about that, so I'm kind of dealing with the man that was on a lot of commercials. Huh. Well, way to tell me that, because now I know more. I always thought you had this, how can I say it? When I first met you, I felt like you always had this like TV, you had this TV aura presence that I just felt like you had. And then pretty much how you just explained it, that totally solidifies it, though. That's good stuff. Very good stuff.
Yeah, a real man of mystery.
Yeah, it is. Very
there it is. Now we know.
Now we know. Now you got hats and everything. So
yeah, there we go.
All right, so let's fast forward, right? Let's talk about, like, let's go to the next section in terms of your tournaments and locals, right? I know you said you first went to a local, but you didn't know anybody at first, and then you met one person, and then you gave him a shout out, right? Tell me, let's talk about that again. Like, when did you started going to locals more often, I would say?
Okay, well, let's see here. Sorry for I know it's a little bit loud there for a second. Let me grab some water.
Yeah, no problem. So as he grabs some water, folks, let me give you a fun fact about UltraSean. This man towers a lot of people because I felt like at times I almost keep comparing him to Undertaker and Kane because they're like 7 feet. But I think UltraSean is like what 6'7", 6'6", 6'8", 6'7", 6'6" out of the two.
And I wish. I'm like 6'5.5". I think like you can if we wanna use that kind of a reference, maybe myself and Atari, consider ourselves the cousins of destruction.
Oh yeah, that is true. That is true.
Sense.
That is true, dude. We have to get you guys together in a photo. It would be pretty iconic with that one. That's for sure. That's for sure. Because it's funny because if I were to say you two probably are the only two tallest ST players that I've seen practically. So that's pretty cool though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're pretty close. I think Atari edges me out height wise, and I think I edge him out width wise. If that makes any sense.
It does. It does make sense. Because Atari is slim. I mean, you're not. You're not fat. You're just more like built, bulky in a way, like a stature like that. So it does make sense though. That's for sure.
So, well, according to my wife, I am fat. Okay, but okay. In my defense, all right. So back then when I was in Singapore, I used to be legit like one of the world's most in shape people. Okay, like I was bulked up, but I was also slim and trim. If that makes any sense. I think I was like straight. I think it was like I would say I was 255 pounds, but it was mostly muscle. Okay. So and actually I never needed to take gas or anything like that. I was able to I ate as much as I possibly could, lifted as hard as I possibly could, right. As much as the heaviest weight I could get. I mean, that's what I did, and it worked pretty well. Let me tell you that.
I believe it.
And so, yeah. So now, unfortunately, I've I got back to America and I started eating the American portions of food, and then I became, then that's when the wife started noticing a little bit of the gut was coming out a little more and more. So
yeah, you were eating the good stuff that was going on, man. I mean, that's basically how that's how it is here in the U.S., man. The food is, man, I would say like the food is like very. It's very addicting here. Basically, it's like one of those things. Like, okay. You can, and I have a problem with this too. As a person that's like 5'9.5", and I weigh about like 280, right? But my body fat is like what 20%, 25%. The rest is muscle because I have a gut. But the funny thing is, it's like it's so hard to stop eating stuff here because it's so damn good. But it's like. It's like you have to have the willpower to actually do so. But I feel like, I don't know what they put in these foods here, but man, that willpower is broken. But that's just me, though. But
no, man. Okay, so I'll before I move on to the next of your the portion we were talking about. So the foods. Let me tell you about the foods between here and Asia. Okay, so the foods in Asia, there's a couple of like rules sometimes that it follows, and or generalities, I guess would be the best way to put it. So number one, the food portions are a lot smaller. So you're paying for your food or your bowl of whatever, but it's going to be like half the size of your standard American bowl. Okay, and then also on the way the food is too as well is generally you're gonna have like it's opposite over here. Like your meat is your main course, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll have something else for your side. Okay. In Asia, a lot of times, like your side is what's gonna be most on your plate, and then you're only gonna really have a little bit of meat on there. So, for example, like if you're ordering, we'll say some like chicken rice, which is a big deal in SG. So most of the food that's there is going to be your rice, and then you're going to have a little bit of meat on the side, and that's about it. So that coupled with the smaller portions, meaning that of course you're not going to be eating as much, and so so you're going to be able to control the weight a little bit more and all that. Versus over here, where, man, you get heaps of food, super tasty, right, and but super high in calories and all this, and so that's the clear difference right there.
Right.
Is just it really, I think, has to do with the diet and the way things are at, because our main course here is meat, right? And then you're gonna have like potatoes inside or something like that. Versus main course in Asia is gonna be rice, and then you're gonna have maybe some meat and this and that on the side. So the it's just the cultural food difference though does lead to different outcomes, I guess, is the best way to put it. So it's I did get used to both foods and what they were. I got to enjoy Asian food as well, which is a little bit tough to find over here sometimes. But yeah, general difference from that, big difference out there. So of course, when I get back here to the United States and I eat a whole ton of the food that I used to love to eat, and well, here comes the weight. But I mean, so good. What are you gonna say, right?
I know, man. It's too good here. It's too good. Now I'm just hungry, man. I mean, I feel like this end of the episode would be like, oh, let's just go get something to eat at this point. So
let's go get some pizza, bro.
Let's get some pizza right now, man. Let's go for that Chuck E. Cheese and get a go pie, man. Oh my God.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Now getting back to the original question on there about the FGC, or about like we'll say ST out there, and where I got started with ST. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to be kicked off of this broadcast because I have to mention the words that need not be mentioned, but my name is UltraSean, so we have to talk about a particular game in mention that Megaman X does not have fun memories of. So I might even have to take over this portion if he doesn't block me already. If I'm already blocked off Discord and all social media from him.
Just say your piece, man.
But we're gonna have to talk about Ultra Street Fighter 2. Yeah. So let's go ahead and dive right into this game. Okay, so Anthony has his version, or sorry, Mega Man X has his version of
you can call
Ultra Street Fighter 2. Okay,
you can call me by my name.
Making sure.
There you go. Everybody knows my first name, so don't even worry about that. So yeah, continue.
Okay, good. No, we're trying to hide this guy's identity like Batman. Just puts on the cowl and when the afro comes on and all he's Mega Man X now. Nobody knows who else. But anyways, so really, it was what got me back into even games in the first place, and what got me into the competitive, like real competitive, fighting genre and Street Fighter 2. It was actually Ultra Street Fighter 2. And so I think what happened was one day I happened to walk into this. It was an arcade there was in Singapore. It was the MRT station was called Serangoon, and up in. So the MRTs out there were all connected to malls. So you would get out. I think it's like what is that? What is the place in New York? What is the center? It's right there by One World Trade Center. It looks like a huge rib cage. Do you know which mall I'm talking about?
Oh, oh my God!
It's not Fulton.
No,
it's not Fulton Center. It was the next one.
It's not Fulton Center. It's oh my God! I know exactly what you're talking about. Is it not Not Penn. No, not Penn. It's right next to Fulton Station. But
it is right next to the Fulton Center. Yeah. Actually, you can use the Fulton Center.
Yeah, I would say it's like the Fulton Center, but it's like a block or so. Not that far from there.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I know you.
Yeah, it's all bright and white and all that, right? Actually, Fulton Center is also a good example of this too. So, over there in Singapore, all the malls are. Or all the MRT lines, the underground lines, are connected to malls. Not all of them, but most of them. Most of the big ones, they're all connected to malls and all that. So you have these hub areas where all these lines will converge into this one, and usually it's a mall, big old huge mall that comes out. So similar to Fulton Center and this other one in New York City, if anybody has been there. So anyways, so I just happened to walk into this arcade one day, and I saw some people playing. It was ST. but I didn't even realize at the time. I was just looking at it. I said, "Oh, that's Street Fighter 2. I know that," And so coincidentally, a friend of mine from work, I think it was like a week later, he was like, "Hey, bro, there's this game called Ultra Street Fighter 2, and it came out on the Switch, and we should totally play it." And I was like, "Yeah, I know Street Fighter 2. I played a long time ago and all that, and I know how to throw some fireballs and this and that." So we got it, and we would at work we would do the ad hoc deal, or we'd sit there and play Ultra with, I think at first it was like the Joy-Cons, but at the time that's what we were just using. We were just messing around. Eventually we got some proper controllers for it and would play during break time and all that, and it was pretty fun. Like, we got pretty competitive, and then so after I think it was a few months, I was like, "Yeah, I remember that Street Fighter 2 game in there. I want to go see if somebody's over there." So I went over to this arcade. The arcade was called NEX. So I don't know if anybody has seen my PlayStation handle, my PSN handle. It's NEX_UltraSean. That's where that came from. So this arcade, I walked in there, and so this is the moment, okay, and this is the moment like where it got me kind of hooked on Street Fighter and Super Turbo in particular. Was I go in there, and there were versus cities, okay? So these were the sit down, the nice Japanese ones. So I go in there, and there was some dude playing, and so I sit down, and I think he was like using T-Hawk against the computer or something. So I go down in there, and I sit and I put a quarter in there, and I'm like, okay, all right, I know how to play some Street Fighter. And let me tell you, this dude, he destroyed me with Hawk, okay? Like, completely destroyed me, 100%. And I was like, wow. I couldn't believe it. I was almost like shell shocked, because I sat down there, I put in the quarter or whatever, and was thinking that I was gonna, have a match with this guy, and no, man, this guy came up and OS'd me for days, and that was that. So I remember thinking like, that sucks, but I like this. And so I was like, man, I got beat down bad, like really bad. Okay, I got beat down hard, but okay. Then I was thinking, I said, well, if this guy can do it, then I can do it, so at that time, the work had shifted, and I had some like a little bit more like free time and all that, and so I said, well, let me go try this again. So the next week I went over there and tried it again, and it was the same result, but like I was slowly getting a little bit better, okay, and so I was playing when I was at home. I would play Ultra online, and it was, at the time, it was okay, because we had like this group of friends that I met online that we were playing with and all that, and it was laggy. It was a laggy mess. Okay, I'll put it this way: the Ultra Street Fighter 2 online on the Switch is a laggy mess. It's unplayable. It's delay-based netcode, meaning that you press the punch button, and it's variable. Okay, this is the worst part. It's variable when this punch will come out. Okay, it's not like you press it and then a split second later it comes out. You press it, and whenever the netcode decides to catch up to it is when it comes out. So it could be a half a second, it could be a full second, whatever. Absolutely terrible. But for some reason, we still played it, all right, because we had the Switch, and it was Street Fighter 2, and having good time, so on and so forth, all that. So anyways, I go over to this arcade again, and I see that same guy over there, so I go talk to him, and he was cool, and I think you guys should know who he is. He is Patrick. He's the one from Singapore. He's the one that posts all those I think it was from like Cow Play, Cow Moo, or there was a different place that they had now, but you'll see all those Singapore videos that he posts online of all like the locals and stuff they have. That was Patrick Yap. He was that Hawk player that just killed me. That killed me, and I was like, okay, this is okay. I now I'm pissed, number one, but also like, no, I want to, this is where I'm like, okay, I can get good too, and you know what I mean, like that's where the seeds for UltraSean were starting to get planted right there, is because I saw what like high level offline play was like. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was. That was it. The buttery smooth control, man. Having like having somebody to fight against who you knew you were gonna lose, but at least was gonna help you get up to speed. And that's what it ended up turning into. there was actually a pretty good core group of guys that I would get to know later on. So we had let's see if I can shout them out. Okay, so there was this very solid Guile player. His name was Shane. Of course, we had Patrick. He was Hawk main. I think he later transitioned into Honda. Let's see here. We had there was this a guy named Joe, who he used Chun, Cammy, and Ken a lot, and Joe was like he would just play anybody, all these other characters. This guy named Jack, who was a sick Honda player, man. I would love to go fight him now. Now that where I'm at now, I would love to go back and rematch this guy, because when I played him before, his Honda would smoke my claw, easily. So we had Jack. We had there was this guy named Mata Joe, and he was this Malay guy with he would always use Oken. Like, he was strictly Oken. He never played anybody else, but he was always playing Oken. So we got, there was a lot of people using a lot of different characters at a pretty high level. So it was nice because you'd get to have good matchup, against these people, have good matchup practice. Let's see here. We had what was his name? His name was Chris Kumar. He was an Indian fellow, and he had a pretty sick Hawk, and he had a good Blanca too as well. There was a guy named Ken Tang that would play Sagat. He would play DJ and play Boxer at a pretty high level. And there was one, I forget what his name. Oh no, there was a guy named Adrian. Unfortunately, R.I.P. He passed away a few years ago. But he was a pretty good Dawson player too as well. So we had some sim, representation there. We also there was this guy, I forget what his name was, but I remember he was a teacher, and he used strictly Chun. And I remember when I started getting decent with Claw, I remember, because they were the versus cities, right? So you could tell that somebody was pissed when you would take a round or something, because you'd hear, or you'd feel somebody slapping the side of the cab.
Yeah.
And so you'd hear the boom, and so okay, yeah, you knew that things were getting heated.
I've seen that. I had that happen a few times. No stranger to doing it, because I've done it before. So, by the way, those Blast are very, very, very sturdy cabs. That's all I'm gonna say. So, very sturdy cab. Very sturdy cab. So
yeah, for sure.
So aside from locals, right? What was your first tournament like?
The first tournament that I actually went out there, I got, I think it was like second place or something. Yeah, I think it was about second place, and this is from a group of guys who played ST, but they just didn't play him as hardcore as the ones at the arcade. And so what was nice for me though was that allowed me to get caught up to speed to ST right away, because again I had to grind it out against these guys, right? And so whenever I would fight competition who just wasn't on their level, it was a lot easier really to deal with, even like in a tournament setting, because I was like, oh yeah, I can totally handle this, and kind of go to town. I believe I lost to I think it was maybe a Honda player when I was still a little bit shaky, with still learning matchups and things like that, and I didn't have it like ingrained. Like now I kind of have most of the stuff ingrained out there, but back then still learning things, right? And so I remember I got second place in that tournament, and then later on there was another one that came that they held, and I got first place in that one. But I don't, I really don't credit that to myself, to be honest with you. With Ant, it's not those kind of like placings like that. Like that's almost never a you thing. Okay, it has a lot to do with that's a you getting your ass kicked thing, and then you having to figure things out.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the funny thing is, it's virtually the best way to learn. That's the crazy thing about it, and people just try to understand. Like, people should understand that it's so, when you first starting out, it's okay to lose. That's the thing. So it's like one of those situations that obviously that when you first starting out, it's like obviously You have to take the good and the bad. Now, obviously, the losing, theoretically, it's supposed to help you just like, I would say motivate you to just pretty much get better. And I would say, like, a lot of players does take the motivation to heart and then just get better. So that's pretty much one of the best, the most important aspects of, leveling up. It's just that you can't have this mindset of thinking that you can win everything. And especially when you're first starting out, you're not going to win. Like, there's always people who have the more experience out there, but you're supposed to learn from that. But that's just me. But please continue on.
No, absolutely. It's I think of it like this, unless you're like super talented, okay? There's some people who are real savants, right, of the game or of whatever they're doing. And they have a like just some natural talent for that kind of helps them excel a little bit. But for the most part, even that talent's not going to be like properly utilized without the hard work, okay? And so as far as like what I feel like is that your strongest level is only as strong as your strongest opponent, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes plenty of sense.
If your opponent is, we'll just say your strongest opponent is a mid-level player, okay? So, and then you get to the point where, you can beat him pretty regularly, but then there's always a top-level players waiting in the wings that, things probably aren't going to go so well for you when it comes to that. So, just like you said, like seeking out strong opponents, just be like Ryu. Okay, Ryu is his whole deal is that he's seeking out the strongest opponents so he can get better, right?
Yeah.
So by seeking out the strongest opponents, basically in any facet of life, I guess, anything that's competitive, that's where you start to unlock yourself and start to learn and start to apply all this stuff, and consistency and hard work, all these things kind of come together. But that it's only by that, and you're gonna, just like you said, you're gonna get your ass kicked, you're gonna lose a lot, but you will learn and you'll get better to that. So then I think they also call it, like in MMA or let's see, like fighting, it's called train hard, fight easy, right? Yep. Like you train out of your mind, that way when you do go to a tournament, it's it's not that bad, it's handleable, because you've already been used to that grind while you were training. Like I said, you go out there. So think about Fightcade. We'll talk about Fightcade for a second, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So on Fightcade, there are plenty of strong players that you'll probably never meet once in your life. There's some that you will meet, right? There's probably plenty that you'll meet, but there's also a lot of strong competition that you'll never meet once in your life, right? So, you'll meet them online and you'll be able to benefit from them pushing you to your limits. And then when you take, that to like a local tournament or something like that, you'll be better off, because it wasn't just that pool, your local pool of players that you were going against. You also had like the creme de la creme, to have fought against and got better as a result of, maybe you lost, but then you started, okay, let me think about this and let me figure this out and come back with a new game plan. And now you're inching away to winning, so on and so forth. That's the way I see that. Like, in my opinion, what is keeping this game alive a lot is not just the community support, but having access to what Fightcade 2 is and all that, and being able to play the game very closely to how it was intended to be, Of course, we're all going to deal with lag and certain points and all that, but I think if you look at somebody like Hokuto, right, like Raul, like he started off as almost purely like an online warrior, and then proceeded to become, one of the best players out of this generation offline as well. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that was just due to the hard work and persistence of him, playing the game and fighting the best that people had to offer, right? The strongest competition that people had to offer. So in my opinion, I think that's the key to that success, was that. And that helped me too as well. Like I remember, so when I got back from the States, when I got back to the States, I think it was like in 2020. I think it was in 2020. Yeah. I went to a tournament in Denver. It was called Brews and Battles. It was at the Akihabara arcade. And so I went there, and what I can tell you, and you can corroborate this with Jack Tiaf as well too. Okay, this is it's corroboratable, I guess. I don't know, that's not a word, but so I remember I was getting pretty good with with Claude, and then I'll also get to how I chose Claude, in a little bit too as well. But so I went to this tournament out there, and man, I remember. So the first match, it was me versus Jack, okay, and it was pushed to the wire, and I remember getting like he beat me that first set, okay, like very close to the wire, man, as close as you could have possibly gotten. Boom, I got knocked in the losers, and so I was like, okay, all right, I still got a chance, and so I remember. I clawed my way back, probably about no pun intended, but actually now that I thought about it, it's a pretty good pun. So I clawed my way back about to 8 or 9 or 10 matches after that, and it was again fighting these Singaporean guys. Man, I'm telling you, they were very, very good, and they kind of forced me to level up that game, right? So when so for this tournament, I remember. Everybody else, like I was thinking, I was like, man, I'm like, okay, easy, and then boom, 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 just knocking people off one after another, after another, after another, after another. Then we come to the showdown with Jack again, because you know how in tournament those type of things tend to work out, right? Like you have two strong players and one gets knocked out real early in the bracket, and a lot of times those same players will still meet each other later on in the bracket. Just because of their strength, right? Of how strong they are and all that, and their ability to take care of business, so to speak. So I met him, I think it was in the semifinals. I think it was the losers semifinals. Yeah, losers finals. And I ended up taking him out on that. And then I had to go up against Justin Wong. And so now this is where we talk about like matchup charts and all that, right?
Right.
So Sagat, Justin Wong, he uses Sagat. He'll use Chun-Li here and there for specific matches ups, but he generally is as an O Sagat or S Sagat player. So he ended up using Sagat, and I think I lost like it was like 1 to 2 to 3 or 1 to 3. I forget what it was, but I ended up losing that grand finals. And so as Claw, he should be winning that matchup, okay? That really should be a somewhat easy victory for Claw. But at that time, I hadn't really have a whole lot of Sagat experience, matchup experience, okay?
Right.
And in a game like ST, matchups are key. Knowing how to fight the match and how to do this is a very key thing. So as good as my Claw was, even at that time, I still lacked that Sagat matchup experience and the Sagat matchup experience, and that's ultimately what did me in, So that's why I say, like, I always go back to, you want to fight the strongest people that you can, even if they kick your ass, because you're still going to get stronger. And that, like I said, nobody's gonna be, or not a lot of people are gonna be fighting H0 offline, right? But that doesn't mean that, when you're fighting him, even though maybe he's beating you or whatever, that doesn't mean that you're not getting valuable info about the matchup and all that. Okay.
Right.
Because so when if you fight H0, you're used to fighting him, and then you end up fighting maybe like a lesser skilled Sagat player. Well, then there you go, right? Now you're definitely equipped to deal with that Sagat player. That's how I see it. Is okay. Well, you fight the best that way. Anybody else is going to be definitely handleable, something like that. So yeah, so that's what happened for that tournament. So I was able to get second there, and it was basically an eye-opening experience. It's like, okay, I'm at this level, but I'm not quite at this level yet. This is, where am I working on? How am I working on this? And what am I doing to improve with this? And I think that's where, when you talked about the intro, that's where I really decided, okay, well, I have to develop my ground game off of this. because of certain things like this. Like you can't just rely just on the YOLO, heal ball and get anywhere, because people that know how to counter that, well, once they know how to counter it and you don't have anything else up your sleeve, then then you're at a serious threat to lose. So that's where the ground game kind of came in, and I had to sit there and develop that as well, specifically because of that. So also, as far as like tournament related stuff though too, so I do want to say that the tournament that I first met you at, which was in Spring Series, you remember that, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, that I have to say, Ant, that was one of the most stacked tournaments that I've ever. I don't think we'll see things like that very much in the future. And we really, aside from like Tournament of Legends, I think that that Spring Series, that particular year was like the apex of all that, man. Just think of everybody that was there. Just think of that.
It was crazy because it was folks from all over, man. Like you had Japan there, obviously the U.S., but the difference was with the U.S., it was everybody from almost every state that was there.
Mm-hmm.
Where it was from Cali to New York to Chicago to, well, you were there, New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
obviously Texas was there. You had Oklahoma people, Florida. It was just crazy. It was a lot of people that was there, and it was like over 110 entrants, which was
Mm-hmm.
incredible. Like that was I would say personally, that was one of my favorite tournaments, because not only that, it was just like you said, was the most stacked tournament that there was in this generation. But it was like every person that, okay, I knew for certain that I talked to online or anything like that, I finally get to meet them. Like a good example, I met you, where we used to be just talking online a lot. Then,
Yes, sir.
then I met people. Well, I met people like Nate, aka Fudd. I mean, actually, no, I met him before, but it was a hiatus over time, and then I met him again. Then I finally met Chris Delp, and then I met, let's see who I met. I met Fromo for the first time, and then
Mm-hmm.
I got to see the Japanese again. I have seen Oda-chan, and then Yaya, and it was like kind of it was such an incredible treat. And Silent Scope, because I've talked to Silent Scope for like a lot of years. Just that was my very first time just seeing him up close. And it was quite the experience, man. It was quite the experience. I mean, the best part was when we were there, we had like sets against the Japanese too, bro. And it was such a learning experience. Such a learning experience. It's like I would say, like, man, there was so much that we had to learn, that they were offered. Like, I felt like during that time, we weren't. I feel like at that time, we weren't too far off from their level in a way. I just feel like there's some things that we could have just definitely worked on. But overall, that tournament was amazing. It really was. I'm sorry to folks who weren't there, but my God, that tournament was amazing.
Yeah, that was. Let me tell you, that was definitely. I don't want to go off on a tangent about this, but really, this was definitely like something that you really had to be there to experience. Not only that, well, we had like Yoga Boy and the Balcork
Oh
who
yeah.
was there too.
Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Hokuto was there, Raul was there. It was nuts, because they had, it was basically like an ST player's dream, right? So it was all candy cabs, it was all versus cities or Astros, whatever. And like it was the one time where you're like, do I want to play Odo-chan, or do I want to fight Damdai, or do I want to fight Afro Legends? Do I want to fight Megaman? You know what I mean? Like, you so many choices. It was there's no way to do it all. You had to choose your ride wisely, so to speak. Like the just even remember the casual sessions that were happening.
Oh
that
God,
was
yeah.
you know that was, aside from the tournament, that was already like a treat in and of itself. Was just the fact that, yeah, you can go, yeah, I'm gonna go fight Afro right now. Hold on a second, I'm gonna fight Fromo. I do remember your match against Fromo was pretty fire. That was a pretty big standout for me. I remember that one.
Yeah.
That was pretty close, man. That one was down to the wire. That was and that not an easy matchup versus Geef too as well, or versus Blanca, I should say. So I like that was definitely, remember seeing, you struck that Geef stuff. I remember when you took out Mike B with that, I think it was the empty jump super.
Yeah.
Right. You just threw that tiger shot, you rolled it, and as soon as you hit down, press punch and bam.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny because Mike and I usually talk about that a lot. And I told him, I'm like, I ain't gonna lie. I told him, man, I felt like I was slated to lose. Because there was a time when he came up to New York before, and he came up to New York for WrestleMania weekend, and we had to have played like a good 50, 60 games, Sagat versus Geef. So going into that match, I was like, man, I'm not gonna lie, I probably was gonna lose because I don't know. I was like to myself, man, I probably think he just learned a lot from that. But then I was like, yeah, once I was like to myself, there are times I said to myself, man, his anti-airs is kind of sus, so I might as well just kept jumping in. So I just like that one empty jump. The minute I know he was just crouching there and he was just not gonna do it, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna just go for it right here and then. And to be honest with you, I never, ever, ever trust my 720s. I never trust it.
Yeah.
So I just usually pretend like it's not there. But I would say like in crucial, desperate moments, then I'm gonna do it. But in that moment, I was like, yeah, he wasn't gonna anti-air me, so I might as well just go for it. And then
we'll call it the 360 OS, meaning that you were, I'll hit 360 for sure, but if the 720 comes out, then okay.
Yeah, exactly. So be it. Just so be it. And then I was like, but yeah, you know what? Talking about that, since we're in tournaments, right? So that tournament, right? Aside, I know you just met a lot of people, but tell me, what was your matches like against the Japanese, though, if you remember?
So tournament wise for me, that one I'll tell you right now, because I'm pretty straight up about things. Okay, I don't, I consider myself a good player. Okay, I'm not the best by any means, but I consider myself a pretty good player at this point, anyways. And so that tournament, I will say though that was rough for me, man, because I remember, dude, I did not get any sleep that night. Like it was so hard, and I remember I went out to Carlos's car and was trying to go to sleep, and man, it didn't happen. And so I remember when I first got on there and I fought, and there was this Blanca player that I just lost to, and I'm like, I don't even know what happened. And so like I felt, I was like, wow, I suck, I guess, but you know what I mean? Like you try not to make excuses, right? Because deep in your mind you do know what happened, but you don't, like I said, try to make excuses. But I remember I was like, wow, okay, I don't even know what happened. Like I'm so tired, dude. I'm so, like, I had got zero sleep whatsoever, and I'm barely hanging on, and but now that woke me up. Okay, so that woke me up. Boom. After that one, after last, I said, okay, I'm awake now. Like enough of this. And I think the next 4 or 5 matches, I was just okay, left and right, boom, 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 and then of course I come up against Reno MD. Okay, to get out of the pools. And so this guy plays Raul all the time, or at the time they would play each other nonstop, right?
Yeah.
So he definitely had the claw matchup on lock, whereas again I didn't fight against a whole lot of tough like dictators at the time and all that too. So there is when he dispatched me. He moved on from the pool, and I got knocked out. And so for me it was pretty disappointing, personally wise, but it was just a good invitation to be, okay, what can I do to improve, and what can I do to get better, and do this and this and this. Whilst I'll have that excuse will always be there, but at least I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm just going to go ahead and try to make whatever adjustments are necessary in order to get better and make sure next time it doesn't happen like that. So that, as far as like my particular part of the tournament went, that's kind of what it what it was like for me. But now, as far as your question goes, what it was like fighting against the Japanese. So it was anytime you get a chance to fight against them, again, it always goes back to this, Anthony. You want to fight the strongest people possible, even if you're going to get smoked, right? Because at least you'll be able to see what level you're on, okay? So for me, what was nice is because I did actually have a few victories against Odo-chan, and I got the nice claw, or nice Balrog deal from him with a thumbs up. So that was good, that was at least okay. I'm on the right track, right? Now one thing about playing them though was that, man, I'll tell you, reversals were on point, number one. Okay, you couldn't do any, you couldn't jump in without it being a safe jump against any of them, because if not, you were done. They would hit you with that reversal, like almost 10 times out of 10. Matsum, Murasaki, Odo-chan. Okay, those guys. And Yaya, of course, too, as well. I remember Yaya bodying me with his guile. I'm like, oh my god, I don't lose to guiles, but here we are, So their matchups are, their reversals on point, and then what they do is, again, at that time it was pretty close. Okay, so I'll go back to, I don't know if you ever saw that video I made of Damdai and Odo-chan, because I remember that one was a real heartbreaker for Damdai, right? For Damien. And I remember everything that Damien did, man, Odo-chan just had the answer for everything.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that video. And at first I was I was kind of laughing. I was laughing at it because I'm I was there live watching that match. And I said to myself, man, I'm Damien's getting he's getting sort of beaten down like this. And I'm well, it doesn't happen often, but I would say when as much time as Damdai would go and go to Japan and play these guys and everything like that. I mean, I feel he's one of those players that I would say would match up with them fairly well, to be honest with you. But it's at the same time, sometimes it's you can't just expect to be perfect all the time. There are times that the biggest word is basically consistency, and obviously
Correct.
It's if you feel you have the consistency of being that good during that time, then yeah. But then there's times that you really would have your off days and you would struggle. So in hindsight, the video was it's funny because that video was very educational, to be honest with you, because it kind of brought up oh, well, what Chun players can do against this certain type of player, or against Ryu and everything like that. So it's well, here's your answer, because Odo-chan just kind of gave you the answer in terms of what to do. And like I said, Damdai was considered during the time one of the best U.S. players besides Afro Legends. So it was one of those situations that that video that you made really explained a lot in terms of how the matchup should go when it was Chun versus Ryu. So I would say kudos to you in terms of releasing that. That's for sure.
Yeah, it just wanted to do something just interesting and fun. It was nothing. It was my channel was called Street Fighter 2 TV, so I was trying to make content that was related to Street Fighter 2, obviously in some way, but was not just nothing but rote matches. You know what I mean? I unfortunately that's what gets the viewer, just the matches. Just the first to fives and all that. But yeah, that one was definitely where I. And I think also too from this is, again, it always goes back to this, is the strongest competition, and always goes back to this no matter what. So if you look at all the Japanese players, right? So all the ones that came over, they have they are always consistently able to grind against the best of the best, right? Think of Space Shuttle Arcade, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. People have access to Mao have access to them. They all grind it out. They all level each other up. So of course, everybody out there is going to be a stone cold killer, So Now, if you think about the way the U.S. scene is, that's why I say Fight Kid is actually very important for this, because if the U.S. scene, and I would assume even Damien too as well, that you don't have like that consistency of being able to fight everybody at your level all the time or higher than your level, at your level or higher than level all the time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think maybe in New York, you should be good out there. But anywhere outside of New York, LA, and maybe a couple of hot spots, you're really not gonna find that you're able to consistently fight against people of that level as you. So if you think about, like, we'll talk about that matchup, right? About the matchup between Odo-chan and Damdai. So if you look at it now, how many ridiculous Ryus does Odo-chan have to fight on the daily? Probably a lot.
Yeah.
Probably a lot. And so of course, that matchup he's gonna have down pat, because there he is, he's consistently grinding against the best of the best. So whereas Damdai, he's an extremely talented fighter, man. Extremely talented. Remember we talked about the it's not just the hard work, but also you got the talent too as well.
Yep.
So he's extremely talented, plus the hard work that he puts in. But then, did he have access to grinding against the best of the best of the best just as much as Odo-chan did? And I would say that probably didn't. Maybe I could be wrong, but likely, the trends or the numbers would say that he probably didn't have access to that kind of offline grind against the best of the best. And then that's where we saw it, right? That's where we saw the deal. So if you think about, okay, so I think that Technical Monkey, right, is who he probably trained a lot with in the Chun matchup.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Technical Monkey is an extremely solid Chun. Very, very good. Okay. I can't understate that enough. But if we look at the reality of the situation, and is Technical Monkey on Odo-chan's level?
Well, it's funny because you say that. People would say Technical Monkey is like the American Odo-chan. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
he was considered one of the best Chun-Lis in the U.S. because it's kind of funny because there was a lot of players that was considered the best that sort of came out from either Cali or New York, and Technical Monkey was definitely one of the best Chun-Lis in the U.S. Like you still had your others like Mongola Robocop. There was also like from what I understand, Scuzzbucket was out during then as well, and yes. You had those. But when you had someone that I want to say it's like his playstyle sort of mirrors like how Odo-chan plays, then you just go to Technical Monkey because he's like virtually the best Chun that was out there. Like he's super knowledgeable about the game in terms of everything, in terms of the frames and everything like that. That dude is like that dude was sick, man. The fact
like
that
an encyclopedia,
exactly,
right?
like it was either him. It was either him in terms of being and that's another thing. In terms of being an encyclopedia, it was either him or his brother. And between those two, you had endless and timeless training. But Damdai did get his training from Technical Monkey, who was like, I would say one of the best Chuns to just like really on a scientific level can go over the matchup with you and just kind of talk to you about stuff. So, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, so like dissecting it,
Mm-hmm.
So then Technical Monkey's in the same spot too as well. Like, so him and Damdai, right? Yeah. So we'll say him and Damdai fighting each other, okay? So they have their ecosystem. Now you have the Japan ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
In which you had people, again, like Odo-chan, okay? And then you had also these other Ryu players and all that in their own ecosystem. And the bar out there was just pushed that much higher because of that. Right. Basically they squeezed every single drop of matchup knowledge they possibly could out of there. Whereas Damien and is it Chris, right? Is it Chris? Technical Monkey, they pushed what they could out of there, but the Japan level was just over that top, just a little bit higher, just squeezed out just a bit more, just due to the nature of the fact that everybody, who was available to play at the time or whatever. And that's what we saw in that matchup was the fact that as skilled as the player Damien was, And as much Chun-Li knowledge as he did have against Technical Monkey, um, he did fall to Odo-chan because Odo-chan just knew just that much more about the matchup and executed it. You know, that was a big thing. And I think, and even look at someone like in what was it? A CEO was Nuki. Did Nuki take one of the CEOs, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
Yes. So, and he used Chun too as well, if I remember correctly. So Nuki used Chun as well, and so that's the difference. Like when you're playing those players, and I don't want to say it's because they're from Japan, because it's not that. It's just because the players in Japan just happen to have that proximity to each other, to where everybody can get to such a high level and have access to such high level people that when you fight anybody else, man, it becomes I don't want to say a cakewalk, but it just becomes a lot easier to handle and all that too. So, and I think that's where in America, again, we don't have access to all those people. I can't just go fight you right now, normally, right? But I can on Fightcade, and so that's, I think, where at least we can still maintain that kind of competitive advantage, is because Fightcade is still available, and that kind of blurs the lines between having to have close proximity access to people, and not having that, but at least having it online. You know what I mean? We still got to deal with the lag and all that, but it's playable, and we're still able to grind out the matchups and get better. And again, like I said, so. We'll talk about Hokuto for a second too. Like, he's a very good example of that, where he grinded online for a long time, and eventually was able to transition to the offline warrior, in which he's currently dominating all these tournaments. You know, so that's a testament to, like, I think where we're at now with the ST scene, is that even though it's fractured and you don't have access to people offline as much anymore, but, you know, we do online at the very least, you know.
It's true. I mean,
yes.
The funny thing about the ST scene is, like, yeah, I mean, the biggest, I mean, we jump right into the FGC pretty much section anyway, but I would say, like, one of the biggest things is that we are just too big. This country we're in is too big, and we are, like, separated. Like, you know, we have our own scene within a scene, to say the least. You know what I'm saying? So you have the whole U.S., but it's like, oh, well, each state has their own scene that's there. So it's like the best way to really go about it in terms of how we can determine, like, yeah, you know, who has, like, you know, how we could play each other for everything like that, is through online means, when it's just like Fightcade, or during the time HDR, or Ultra Street Fighter 2. You know what I'm saying? You had, like, ways to just play people online. It may not be perfect, but it's one of those situations that, you know, we have to kind of take the good and the bad. I mean, Fightcade, I mean, they have came a very long way. That's the funny thing about it. Like, they have come a very long way. Like, I feel like right now it's really in a good spot, to be honest with you. It really is a good spot. I just feel like one of the biggest things about Fightcade is just, I mean, I would say, like, you know, sometimes it's like the net code is pretty, I mean, it feels consistent, but it's really not consistent. And it's like one of those situations that you kind of have to be mindful of with the whole, you know, smoothing and having running head on, depending on your PC, even though you don't have to have a really good PC to run it. But it's like, we're trying to find means to have as close as an offline feel as possible, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So I would say, like, you know, yeah, it kind of sucks that we can't just hop on a plane and be like, yo, let's meet up to play some ST and everything like that. I mean, it's possible, but, you know, you see them ticket prices.
Oh yeah, believe me,
it is up there. I mean, it is up there, folks. COVID came and just destroyed the friggin' the airline tickets, man. Like, oh my lord, man. So I can understand for sure in terms of what you mean in terms of yeah, your field's fractured, but we can't just up and go and visit people like how we want to or anything like that. But we have to have the means to play online or just go to one of the big tournaments that is hosted for it and just go there and have fun. So I can understand from a set point where you're coming from. But since we're on the subject about the FGC, do you kind of look into what's going on in the modern FGC nowadays?
Give me an example of what you're.
So right now we're in the midst. We're pretty much a year removed of the release of Street Fighter 6, right? We got all these brand new players that are here, like the brand new demographic of players that's here. Capcom Cup came by, went and passed. Capcom did his first $1 million tournament in Capcom Cup. Now we are pretty much on the trajectory of doing esports at this point. So I want to know, like, what do you think about the FGC going to the esports direction? And what do you think about today's Street Fighter, I should say?
Okay, let's see here. So as far as so let's talk about the general direction at first.
Mm-hmm.
So these type of things, they always start as a grassroots thing. That's where the beginning is of basically everything that was not planned ahead of time to be, an esports deal, whatever. Okay.
Right.
So we'll talk about Street Fighter as far as that went. When Street Fighter 2 first came out, it was meant, and I mean, I think everyone should know this by this time, but it was meant to sell, right? To make money. That it was for. It was just to make money. It wasn't, planned as this grand deal, that we're going to have, the esports thing and we're going to have this and that. It wasn't planned to have like crazy tournaments and all that. That was all 1000% grassroots kind of community efforts in order to get that started. Okay.
Right.
So now we're at the point though where I would say that Street Fighter 6 has kind of already been developed. Maybe even 5 too, maybe kind of start with 5, but it was developed to also cater to kind of like an esport demographic.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's, to me, what the thing that what I think about that is I'm happy that the brand Street Fighter is still around. And I'm happy that it's still basically as strong as ever, right? If not stronger, and that we are, that people are finally able to be able to play it like professionally and be like it be a thing for them, because back in those days of the tournaments, all that, nobody was making a living off of those kind of tournaments. It wasn't like that,
Mm-hmm.
You were in there for the pride or whatever, for the bragging rights, and $20 or not that much, okay. But now at least I'm happy that Street Fighter is still living on, and it's a thing where people are able to actually like, okay, we got the Capcom Cup for $1 million, right?
Yep.
That's after taxes is going to be probably what, 600, 700,000, something like that. But that's still a huge chunk of money, and I think that the 700,000 is definitely enough to keep you set for a decent amount of time, right? So I'm happy that we're in a spot now where people are able to enjoy the fruits of their labor like that. Okay. Because before it just wasn't like that. It was very much like the Wild West, and now we're kind of like in modern times with that. Street Fighter still has a ways to go with that, but at least you can see that the trend is there, and it doesn't seem to be going away. We seem to still be pretty strong. Now, as far as Street Fighter 6 goes, what I can say about that is I actually did dabble with that game for a little while, and I had it I played it on the PS5, and I never really played any ranked matches. I just went into casuals, but I think there was still a ranking system in casuals, because I noticed that I started going from like rookie, and then I would start moving up, and all my opponents were changing levels. They were going to higher and higher and higher. So all of a sudden, I started fighting like exclusive, like master level opponents. In my opinion, I thought it was a pretty fun game. I thought it was designed pretty well. I think I used Blanca. I just chose Blanca. I was like, yeah, no, I'll play Blanca. So I just chose him and just watch some of the videos that people are doing, and I got actually pretty decent at that one. I feel if I had stuck with that one, I would have been pretty good at that one. But the thing for me though is that I think a lot of us in this age bracket that are playing ST are a lot of us are a bit older, and we have our careers and stuff going on, and we just don't have time to pour into things as much as, like, say somebody who's competing for Capcom Cup, right? Those ones are going to have a lot of time to do that. You have to have time in order to make that kind of commitment, in order to get that good. Okay, so I actually did play it for a while and I enjoyed it. It was the only thing though was that it was taking away my time from grinding ST, or maybe playing like hyper fighting or something like that, which I was able to enjoy a bit more casually because I could hop on and hop off whenever I felt like it, and still have that matchup knowledge and all that, versus where if I play Street Fighter 6, I'm going to have to deal with a patch here, and then another patch in another month, and then another patch in another month, and so on and so forth, right? So your strategies were always having to change and evolve. That's not a bad thing, but just for me, where I'm limited in the time that I can play, that's kind of a bad thing, right? Whereas with ST, there was no change on there, so you could theoretically squeeze as much as you possibly can out of it and max it out and get to the top level, versus in Street Fighter 6, 5, 6 and all that, everybody's always playing catch up because there was new patches out that made combos not work anymore, made new combo avenues, combo routes, things like that. So as far as the game goes, I actually enjoyed it. It was pretty fun. I had a good time playing it and all that, and I just wish I had more time to play it. And because of that, that's why I stopped. Basically, I've stopped for quite a while now, just because just no time. The older we get, the more bills we have to pay, and so on and so forth. And it's an unfortunate reality, but something that we have to do, if we want to live.
Yeah, adulting is hard. I mean, that's basically what it goes. But it's a funny deduction about 6 though, because I've played 6. I still play it to this day. I do find the game pretty enjoyable. Like, it's pretty fun, to be honest with you. Now, do I like the ease of combos and the ease of use and everything like that? Not really, but I can understand from a demographic set point that what Capcom is aiming for, to be honest with you, because obviously they're just aiming to, like, they're aiming not, I want to say, like, the, not aiming just so only for the old guard, but I would say, like, for, like, the newer folks that really want to get into Street Fighter, especially those who, like, say, oh man, they were playing it with friends and they had fun, but now you have a chance to be great. Like, you can be Joe Johnson playing against Daigo. You could easily just beat him, just because of how the game is. But I'm not saying it's going to be an easy task, but it's one of those situations that if you definitely play more and get well, then you could easily do it. Like, for me, I'm still sticking to the GIF on 6, got up to 1800 MR at the moment. So it's like one of those things that I'm kind of just like, like I said, I enjoy the game. Though, do I want to take it? It's like my question to myself, and I'm still trying to figure this out, is like if I want to really take it seriously, right? Because now I'm in, you know how you in that phase of, I'm just enjoying the game and just having fun and all that stuff, but you're pretty good. But it's like, you have the potential to be great. But it's like, in your mind, something just holds you back. That's how it is. But I would say, like, in terms of the trajectory of esports, I mean, to be honest with you, it was bound to happen. And I've been saying this a lot, like, even though I feel like what it is, the grassroots should always remain to be there only because that's the history of when it all began. So you know the old saying of, never forget where you came from is still prevalent to this day in terms of how you're supposed to do it. Like there's some people that would totally remember that, but I feel like a lot of people just kind of don't remember it in a sort of way. So it's like one of those situations that, man, it kind of sucks that people just kind of just want to forget the back then and all that stuff. It may be not to your liking or anything like that, but it's like, to me, I feel like the struggle is what creates the character. That's how I see it. So I would say like esports in terms of that. I mean, if they try to match it up with like games like CS:GO, Call of Duty, StarCraft, and all that stuff, then I mean, shoot, go for it, man. Like, I mean, you get $1 million just to play a game that we considered a hobby at first, and now it's actually a profession at this point. So, kudos to that. But trust me, like just like you, we have to do adulting stuff. More bills is just adding up. More stuff you have to do. You got to pay this, got to pay that. I'm telling you, like, I can understand that from a hold hard standpoint. So, but yeah, what was gonna say?
Oh no, I was about to say, oh yeah, like that. That's mainly the thing, But I am happy though that this generation does have that ability to be able to make a living off of that. Again, it's not going to be for everybody because not everybody's going to be able to do it. Okay, like I do have to be realistic about it. But the thing is that it is now an attainable deal, and it's not just a pipe dream anymore, which is nice. So I'm happy that the scene is able to grow and that it is able to transition into a place in which it does become, it can become a life changer for a lot of people. Okay. And the people who are there are putting in the hard work and all that too as well. Okay. You know what I mean? It's not like, I do have to say, it's not just someone's just rolling out of bed and all of a sudden he's making $1 million in Capcom Pro Tour. That's not the case. Okay. The people who are doing that are extremely, again, it's not just talent, but it's more the hard work and consistency part of it, because a lot of people, I don't think realize just how far those type of things go or how far they can get you. But I am happy that scene is where it's at and where we came from. Again, like I said, and just like you're talking about the history, just like how we are now, it's at least starting to come full circle with that, because like I said before, people just don't know how seriously big Street Fighter 2 was when it first came out. Like the cultural impact it had, absolutely huge. It saved the arcades. It made arcades relevant for how many years, after that, strictly because of Street Fighter 2, and the way the game was designed, the competitive aspect of it, the whole deal, like that, all that, the total package was, brought us here today. And so the same thing, like for us, for playing ST, playing dabbling in Hyper CE, all that too, like that's it's funny that you mentioned the inputs on that one as well too, because now that we think about how easy the inputs are in 6 versus what we have to deal with in ST, we got to be pretty precise with everything that we do, man. And so there's certain things that you have to know in order to make sure that this comes out correctly and all that, which when you play Street Fighter 6, it feels like you're in like in auto mode.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's another thing. That separates. That there's a distinct separation there. And I think that is a turnoff for some newer players too. Is the fact that the inputs are very strict and all that, and doing a Dragon Punch in ST. It's not hard, once you know how to do it. But when you're still getting to grips with it, it's not easy. But then, like if you're playing like Street Fighter 6 or I think 5 or 6, it was pretty easy, right? I think when we're Street Fighter 4, what was it? Down forward punch, and that was Dragon Punch, something like that. Like that was the shortcut for that, which is crazy. But at least we're at the spot where Street Fighter's still going, it's still live. We do have a decent mixture of the old guard and like the new generation, so the ones that are they start playing Street Fighter 6, but then some people will see Super Turbo, say, hey, what's that? And then they start playing that one too as well, So at least we do have some young generation still kind of seeping into our area and being able to enjoy the game as well. Which is one thing I do like to see, is the fact that the game still has legs despite it being X amount of years old and all that. So that's one good thing about that. And yeah.
Speaking of that, right? I'm sorry to cut you off. Speaking of that, I do have a question, and this is probably the last question in regard to the FGC, right? So you touched on like the younger some younger generation comes over to play some ST, they like it and everything like that, right? So now, considering in terms of the retro FGC, right? We're in a state that nowadays new hardware are being presented, right? In terms of how to play at tournaments and everything, right? Instead of the the standard that what we normally were supposed to go by, which is just playing the arcade cabs, is logistically, you and I both know it's logistically a nightmare to kind of just travel that around in the U.S. So now the presentation of super guns, misters, cabs that has USB decoders in them, right? Now, I want you to tell me, in terms of the retro FGC, in terms of new ideas for hardware like that, do you feel like that's going in the right direction to appeal to more players because of that?
So I don't even want to put it as it's an appeal to new players. I just will say that all these type of things are almost the only direction that we have to go to. There's really no other choice. Okay. So we'll say, as far as we'll say my personal tier list. Okay. As far as the way to play it. So I'm going to tell you the S plus tier. Okay. The Akuma tier. That's going to be on sit down Japanese candy cabs. Okay. The head to head ones.
Yes.
Okay. That's my personal. Once you get used to that, and once you play that thing, everything is so buttery smooth, so silky smooth, that it is extremely tough to go to anything else. Okay, once you're used to that, that's if you have access to that, man, you have the most perfect control you can possibly get. Okay, the inputs are always there; they always come out right. It's the actual hardware. I think you still might have to do frame skip and stuff like that, but as far as it goes, that's absolutely the total package. Okay, that's the S plus tier. Then underneath that, we would have your super. Okay, no, okay. Let me tell you what my current S plus tier is. Sorry, it's the same thing except those the little undammed inputs that you have in there.
Yeah, the decoders, the USB decoders. Yes.
Yes.
The undammed decoders.
Yes. So candy cabs with USB decoders, that should be the S plus tier right there, because that basically brings everybody together. Okay. You're an OG, you want to play on cabinet, there you go. You're a pad warrior that you've never played anything but pad in your life, but you're super good, there you go, plug it in, and then you're good to go. To me, that's the S plus tier right there. Okay, I know there's some purists who are like, oh, it just has to be the candy cab, nothing else. I don't feel that's the case. I feel like if we have the technology to have, hey, I want to play on the candy cab and you can play with the controller, hey, that's it, right? That I'm totally that's to me, that's the S plus tier, is having an undammed connection for someone to bring their own stick if they wish, whatever, right? I'm totally happy using the sit down, the controls, as long as they work. I'm totally happy using those controls and the ones on the cab itself. But if somebody else wants to play with their own stick or their own pad or whatever, totally fine, because I still get the experience I want and they get the experience they want, and we're still on the same terms. You know what I mean? Somebody using a pad is not going to be on any different level or any better level than somebody that's on an arcade stick. It's not intrinsically, it's just their skill with that, unless somebody's using macro cheats or something built in, hidden inside or whatever. But I think that would be sussed out pretty quickly in a tournament environment. Okay, so in my opinion, S plus tier is going to be the candy cab with the undammed inputs. Right underneath that's regular candy cab, okay, versus City double Astros, as long as they're head to head. And then under that would be probably the super guns, because you're still playing on the original hardware. and likely using some sort of CRT or something. And same thing with the inputs, with the undammed inputs, or whatever that allows you to plug in your own stick. And the reason why I put that a little bit lower is that because you're usually missing the presentation. Because I'm sure that if you've seen plenty of tournaments where they run on like a super gun, but they're running it like on like a 19-inch screen or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So like a little wooden screen that's just a little baby screen and all that. So you have that. You don't have the nice 29-inch screen that you do on your Astro. You have like a little mini 19-inch screen. You're kind of side by side right next to your opponent too as well, unlike the space that you have when you're running an Astro. And you also are missing, the perfect control that you would get on the Astro, because now you're dealing with input lag from the sticks, like from your own personal sticks. You know what I mean? Some have more lag than others and all that. So there's some variability there. So it's a good way to play, because you can't bring cabs all over the place. It's a good way to play, probably the second best way to play, but there were still a few flaws there. And then underneath that, we have the Mister, right? Mm-hmm. The Mister on there. So as far as the Mister goes, let's see, best way for me to describe it is that it works good and then it doesn't work good. So it works good. I think, well, recently, the general consensus has been that ST runs pretty well in the Mister, runs good enough to be tournament worthy. But recently, there's also been some rumblings that it's not really the right speed. Okay, I think it was brought up because when Mao came and did his little tour, there was some timing issues with what he was playing and then what we're used to playing with the actual board itself. And then now we think of something like hyperfighting, right? Mm-hmm. So hyperfighting on the Mister runs way too fast for whatever reason, and that hasn't been addressed yet, and we don't know if that's going to be addressed. So even though the Mister is as good as it is, it's still not the real hardware running the real game, and so you have those issues, plus things like controller inputs and all that. I know there's been some issues with being able to properly read certain sticks and this and that, so it's still a good way to be able to do that, because now you have basically a box that does it all, right? That runs basically any retro game you could possibly think of and run it very well. But then you do have these outliers like hyperfighting, in which it's just totally, it's like the 10-star speed on the Super Nintendo version of hyperfighting, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
It's pretty nuts. And there's a huge fluctuation, huge difference between that. So that's where I think the biggest weakness of the Mister, as far as our specialty goes specifically, is that part of it. Once that gets sorted out, then I don't think that's going to be weakness anymore. But while it's still going on, that's a huge deal, especially to people who are used to the creme de la creme, which would be the arcade cabinets. Those are the best way to go. And then personally, I would put the big blues, man, like back in the day, they were totally good, and I can still play on them, but I would put them at, I would say, probably bottom tier. And the reason why is just because those controls are so crazy. Imagine mashing on those concave, on the concave buttons that they used to give us, and the big old huge like bat tops that they use, those big old huge monster deals.
Yeah.
So that's the tournaments are likely going to be held on Mister more going forward, especially because we don't have access to as many boards and stuff as before, and everything's not as prevalent, and a lot of people who own these things don't maybe they don't go to tournaments anymore and all that, so they're likely going to be on the Mister. So that's going to be the future for that. I'll tell you that right now. For as far as our scene goes, it's going to be the Mister. So hopefully those issues get sorted out and we get to the point where it is going to be basically one-to-one representation of the arcade board. And as far as the ultimate way to play, though, again, like I said, you and I probably agree, it's going to be those a head-to-head versus setup. I think that's once you play that, man, it is very hard to go back to anything else. But when you're going to go to a tournament, who knows what you're going to run into? I think was it Makiri? I think was it Marcus that went to Evo. Not this year, but the previous year's Evo.
Last
under the impression it was going to be last year's, and it was going to be under the impression it was going to be run on a cab, and then it ended up being just run like on a super gun setup, and I can guarantee you that probably threw him off a little bit, right?
Yeah,
because you were just used to that.
It was taken last minute. Yeah, it was. The story was with that, like, previously, folks, if they didn't know, like, what happened was they were supposed to have ST on cabinets, right? And according to what what was being said by the TOs, it was going to happen. Then all of a sudden, I think maybe this was like maybe 2-3 days before Evo, they say that they're changing from cabs to super guns. Why? And then there was like zero explanation. So imagine coming all the way from Japan, knowing that your expectation was to play on the cabinet, and you have no stick, no nothing, and then now you have to kind of find a way to just source a stick that whole time. So it felt pretty bad. Like, I felt really bad for him because the fact that how that happened, how it was handled, and I don't think there was no explanation from the TO side whatsoever. But you know how Evo had their huge arcade area, and they were like, well, why couldn't we use those cabs or anything like that? And obviously, the straight up answer was that's just for the historic cab section, like for arcade cabinets and stuff. So they weren't gonna move it from there. But it was sad that had to happen, though. But I would say, like, in how you explained, which was very eloquently. I appreciate your honesty in terms of, what do you feel in terms of the cab inputs versus cab, and which you feel is the best, because it feels like it's it's obviously for play. You play how you play what you like and play what you're most comfortable with. I mean, I personally feel like having decoders on cab is like a double-edged sword. Sure, it enables you to play on your stick, but it's like one of those things, like, one, it kind of looks weird, and two, it's like, all right, well, just like you said before, you don't know if this person has hidden macros enabled inside his stick or anything like that that comes on by default. So it's like one of those things that you kind of get scary of. And I feel like this all started because of the whole Chris G effect, I would say, because of what happened to him at the Jazzy circuit, at the Jazzy finals.
Yeah.
And this goes a long way that you have, like, if you're an arcade owner, and one of your cabs is malfunctioning, you obviously have someone there to fix it for you. And sure, it's obviously there for them to just do that. They do it, though it's still not to your liking, but you prefer to have your own stick and everything like that. And I get it. I mean, I'm a big advocate for play on what you like. You know what I'm saying? Play on what you feel most comfortable for. But I mean, for me, and this is just me, I feel like as a tournament player, I feel like I am probably just gonna say, yeah, it's easier to just play on cab and call it a day, only because you run minimal risk of breaking your own stuff. Because if you break your own stick, then what happens now? You know what I'm saying? That's technically on you for you to fix that. While versus when the stick, like the gate is loose or the button's not working, you already have somebody on site that to go ahead and fix it. But that's just me. And as for the Mister, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it runs flawlessly, but it runs like a second too quick, and hyper fighting run is way too quick, and it's supposed to get it. I mean, hopefully it gets addressed, but I mean, I still rate it pretty high, to be honest with you, only because it's small, it's cheaper. Some games does run on the right speed, but the only issue is the whole controller situation, because you still have to map it. But I can understand that. And I appreciate your honesty in regards about that one. So thank you for that part.
Oh
So
yeah, of course. It just I mean, that's again, that's the Mister's the future, and as far as like the plugin part thing, as far as the plugin goes, like I always like, because on Fightcade you will run up against actual macro users,
yeah,
and the way to mitigate that, like as far as I'm concerned, is that we just don't put ourselves in those situations in order for that macro to start. You know what I mean?
hmm
If somebody lands, the perfect combo on us, man, why did I let him land that combo on me? You know what I mean? Like that's how I see it, like that. That way, I'm not even thinking about, oh man, this is this dude doing this or not? No, it's like, this is up to me to make sure I don't get that position.
right,
If I don't when I'm fighting you, right? Like if I got SPD'd, it's because I screwed up, I effed up. You know what I mean? So I mean, even if you do have the macro for it, or John Choi, he has the macro for it. Shout out to the Macrolorian. It isn't my fault for getting in that position where I was going to get destroyed by that, because I was going to get destroyed by the guy using the macro with that, or I was going to get destroyed by the top level player using his brain to do the inputs that which went to his fingers, in which hit the buttons, and is essentially the same as the macro on that. So like I said, it's just me. Why did I get myself in that situation? Why did I let that happen? What was my issue? That was my fault for doing that. It's that way I'm not even thinking about, like, this guy has this, whatever. Lets me play a little bit more, focused on what I'm trying to do, versus like, oh, what's this guy trying to do? I tried to tend not to think about that type of situation on there. So for me, like I said, the controllers, having the controller plug-in, I'm not against that at all. Just because, again, like, there's really good, like Snoopy Global, that Chun player.
yeah,
He plays on a Super Nintendo pad, bro. That's hard. But he's pretty good. He makes that work. Like, who'd have thought? You know what I mean? So like, he's a strong Chun, right? So if he goes to a tournament, I would consider him like a threat, and a threat to win and all that, or whatever. And it would suck if he wasn't able to do it, because he just never, he just only used that pad. There's no way for him to play. But then, and side of the coin too, then you have people like Reno, who you pad player, Xbox, right? Xbox 360 or something like that, 360 pad player, and he did transition to being able to play on the arcade, to the cabs. So when there was nothing there available to plug in, he would happily jump on there and play on the sticks. So so you do have people like that they're able to kind of jump back and forth between that. But again, and then what we talked about before, yeah, Mister's the future. There's no other way. It's too compact. It's too convenient. As like I said, it doesn't cost that much. You can think about, remember before we had the Darksoft, right?
yeah,
In which you had all the games. I still have them. That's what I have in my cab. I use the Darksoft, the CPS2 Darksoft. But you're limited to only those CPS2 games. Now with the Mister, you can play whatever you want, anything, and they're all running pretty good. Again, with some exception, all running pretty good. It's convenient to hook up to, and of course, we still have the button remapping things and all that. But I'm sure at some point that would get addressed. But it's an easy way to keep these games going, in which, again, less and less. How many cabs are around now compared to where they were before, right? Probably a lot less, probably a lot more expensive now, to buy. I can tell you right now, my cabs, those are going to be, I'm going to refashion that into my coffin, Anthony, okay? Right. So those two Astros, they're going to be the perfect, this is going to be a coffin for me, all right, bro? So I'll never get rid of those for nothing, because I love those things too much.
I respect that, man.
And so like I said, lack of availability, all that, it's the Mister is the future there, because we have all the tech that's continuing not just what's there and it's not anymore. This tech is continuing to grow and all that, and now we have access to these games that we can still play these games continuing on with this tech, which is nice, versus the Darksofts and the cabs and all this, in which they're yesterday's tech and we still enjoy them, but at a certain point they're going to get less and less and less and less and less. The Mister's here, it's now, and it's continuing. That, I mean, really, again, it's just progress. It's time, right? It's the ebb and flow time. It's progress, and that's we're there. And I'm happy that that game is still available to be played on that. Like we still have a medium to play it, even if all these cabs and all these dark softs and all these boards die off. You know, that's one thing that I'm very happy that the scene has still been able to evolve, even under those circumstances.
Well, that's very, very well placed. And yeah, the Misters are the future. I mean, I think it still will kind of get met with some scrutiny in terms of some stuff, but I think you're absolutely right about one thing. It is going to be the future, and it's looking pretty bright in terms of that. So, you know, if you're a Mister owner, definitely hold that sucker tight, because I mean, right now it's expensive, but there's other means to get them, because there are cheaper means to get Misters now, pretty much, because there are other sites that actually have them and they kind of built them, but they cost like a lot less than the actual creator, how much he sells it for. So it's totally I would say, like, if you're one of those people that, okay, you've never had any classic systems of any kind, the Misters your go-to. That's how I feel. But if you feel like you still have, like, your classic stuff, like your Nintendo, your Sega, your Super NES, Saturn, I can't say Dreamcast. Right now, the newest core is PlayStation. So I pretty much feel Dreamcast is coming next, and CPS3. But I would say, like, you know, if you have those, keep it, but still get a Mister anyway, because it's totally worth having. But
absolutely, bro.
That's just my opinion with that one. It's totally worth having.
It's a one-stop shop. Basically, pretty soon it'll be an all-in-one solution for all that. 100%. There's no way I can't. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Like that, it's a one-stop shop for basically all your retro gaming needs, man. Absolutely. And there's a lot of good stuff out there. That's I'm telling you, there's a ton of good PlayStation games, man. Ton of them.
Yeah.
Like there's no way you'll go through everything in your entire lifetime. you know, like so. I mean, the Mister, it's versatile. You know, it runs basically what everything is set up already to run. It's going to run it very well. And man, like what other value are you going to get? You know, you're not going to get any better value than that.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can play your personal games, then you can play tournament games. You know, you can take it to a tournament, set up Super Street Fighter 2, boom, go to town, and you can come back home and you can, you know, play some Stu Coden or you know, some super great, you know, PS1, anything basically. As far as once the cores come out, man, like it's definitely, again, it's the future. But I'm happy that future's there. You know, happy that it wasn't forgotten. I'm happy that they still continue to move on. You know, it still lives on.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. All right, so we reached to the end of the interview, man. First things first, thank you for joining, for sure. I mean, it's such an honor to have you on here, that you can express your past upbringings and basically how you got started. I think that's one of the key things that why am I doing this in the first place, because not a lot of people know, like, I feel like you're one of those legends in your own right, but you don't really have anybody to explain it to. But I'd much rather you to explain it to the world in terms of, you know, that what you have come from, and people can definitely take an interest of you in terms of, you know, what you went through to get to where you are today. So I appreciate you being on here. So
no.
Before we get,
thank you.
I appreciate
thank you.
That. Anytime, man. So I did forget to ask. So one thing I do want to know, like, like I said before, you're like in all these, you're in some communities. One of it being the ST community. You're in the 1UP community. You're also in the HF community, right? What are your upcoming goals for, like, in the next few years? Is it anything project related, tournament related, or anything life related that's coming up? Like, what's next for UltraSean, I should say?
Okay, let's see here. So I got actually there's a few things to say. So and I want to throw a special bonus here at the end with you, and if you wouldn't mind,
Of course, please.
we'll get started with it here in a second. But let me answer your question. Okay, so as far as Sean's goals go, no, the wife and I are just we're looking to start purchasing a house.
Sweet.
And we're up here in the Seattle area, which is cool. Nice place. I love the weather. I love the chill. I love the cool weather, and suits me pretty nice. So we're looking at the finding a nice house to get, and we've scouted a few locations, and we're just trying to check and see what's going on. So again, I'm just working a whole lot, making sure that there's mortgages to be paid and all. Again, the adulting stuff. So on that front, we're just trying to come out here and live a nice life, live a decent life, apart from all the craziness that was going on in Singapore. And so we're looking at having some plans to purchase a house. Nothing big, I think it's very rote things for a lot of people, but for us it's pretty nice. It's a transition. And so as far as UltraSean goes, so my goal, I think my whole deal is, again, I don't have a lot of time to really be able to put the grind nonstop. I think, which is I love ST and end of story. That'll be my game. That's my game for good. So I think one of my goals that I think is achievable is probably just maybe winning a major at some point. If I can get it together and get the stars aligned and all that, and go to, I think maybe next year I'll be heading to Fight Kingdom. The last couple of years I just was working too much. I didn't have the time to go out there, but I'll be making sure to free up some time for that. And just going to one of the big tournaments up there and seeing if I can get a victory out there. I think it's an attainable thing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do as far as that goes, and putting all my knowledge to the test now at this point. Kind of having matured as a player from back then. I think it was 2018 till now, and just once if I can get to that point, then I think I'll be good. I'll be straight, right? Mm-hmm. At that point, then I can say, yeah, I've hit a pretty decent level. And now that's not something that'll bug me. That's something that I can say, okay, yeah, I did pretty well. I got to here, I did that, and it is good. I did at the Missouri Games Con. I went there and I got first place tournament out there, and it was pretty good. But I personally would rather it be a little bit like higher profile, type of deal, to be streamed and the whole deal. So that's one of my goals. Obviously, is to get better with is just get better at ST in general, get better at hyper fighting too. I'm actually enjoying the Ryu gameplay now, and I'm getting used to the matchups and all that, and becoming kind of a little more of a threat at a hyper too as well. Being able to give good practice now and all that too. So I'm looking forward to that. So as far as the FGC goes, really it's just if I can go out there and get a major under my belt, that's perfect. I'm good enough with that. I'm not going to be looking to go take Evo in Japan by storm. And although I will go to Japan at some point, we'll go out there and try to play with all the greats out there. But I think, for me personally, I think just a win at one of these majors around here, I'd be great. I'd be happy with that. That's one thing that I'd be able to check off the bucket list, and then boom, after that, it's going to be just fun mode after that for the most part. And then I think, that's really about it. The thing is getting the house, there's so much time and effort into making sure that happens, and a lot of cash, a lot of cheddar that goes into that as well. So but probably that's most important part is the cheddar.
Let me tell you something. I completely understand, and by the way, congratulations on getting a house. Well, getting close to getting a house. You know what I'm saying?
There, yeah.
That's very much a very big step, and not only it's a big step, but it's very doable. It's just that, like you said, it costs a lot of money to do so. So
Yeah.
I do hope that you and the wife does get a house and make sure you get. I know you still have your calves, but throw that sucker in the garage and have the Sean garage sessions come up soon.
It's
But
gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
good, good,
Make
good,
it
good,
happen.
good,
Mhm.
good. And then as for UltraSean winning the major at Fight Kingdom, I would say I think actually I can't even say I think I know it's within the cards for you to win it. I think you only I mean, I know you'll probably have your biggest. I mean, there's like maybe one, two, maybe three players that you might have to kind of look out for out there. But I know for certain that you can do it because I have seen you like you've grown you have really grown as a player. Like you definitely matured, even though even though I would say like you kind of have more. In terms of experience, you have totally more experience though. But as a person who's really trying to get better, you definitely has grown a lot, and it shows in your gameplay. That's the funny thing about it. Like it really, really shows. It's like you became more. I want to say like you became more solid, more rigid, more like you don't have any. It feels like you just don't have holes within your gameplay. Like I would kind of say like you're close to being a like sort of like a I don't want to say a perfectionist, but it's more like you're like exercising your craft within your character to say the least. So it's like one of those things that I'm real proud of seeing what I'm when we play and everything like that. I'm like really proud of seeing when I play because it could go. To be honest with you, when we play, it goes either way, man. It's like it's very fantastic in terms of what I see. So, seeing you take Fight Kingdom would be. I'm not gonna lie, it would be really exciting to see. I'm not gonna lie because it's one of those things that it was. For me personally, it's a long time coming, to say the least, because aside from adulting and everything like that, you don't have the time to really do so. But trying to achieve that would be pretty big. So I look forward to seeing you go there and definitely take it. So I'll be watching to see that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a. First of all, thank you. Second of all, yeah, I think it's an attainable goal. I think that, say, like a main event of myself versus like X64, maybe James Walton, that'd be a pretty sick banger.
Yeah.
I think that would be definitely a pretty intense main event to see. That'd be fun. I think that'd be something that would be pretty good. I think everybody would love to see the kind of clash of these titans going at it. That'd be fun. And yeah, I think it's attainable. So it's just when I get free time, I pop on and try to just to keep the things straight and all that. And when it's a time around there, I might be able to even put some more time in there and really try to dial everything in, and then seeing how it goes. And so there is one more thing, Anthony, that I do want to talk about with the people. Okay, so it's gonna be me and you. All right.
Okay.
Or two more things. So number one, let's talk about Claw real quick, okay? Because Claw is always a hot button issue. Am I correct in this?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do two things, okay? All right. So the first thing is, people are always like, oh, Claw this, Claw that, Claw. Okay, so you're a dirty Claw user. Of course, I'm a Claw villain, the whole deal, right? But so I do want to address how this Claw thing got started with me, okay? All right, because a lot of people may not know, because they're just, oh, you just went straight to the top tier and okay, but actually it wasn't like that, okay? So I'm gonna do a quick TLDR of this. So when I was playing Ultra 2, I was just using, again, whoever. When I went to that arcade, again, just using whoever. And then so Shane, the Guile user, I think at that point he was like considered like Singapore's best player. And one day he comes up to me and he said, hey, Sean, and because I would go up there a lot, but I'd get my ass kicked, right? And I was getting slowly better, but I was just using whatever character, right? One day I would choose Ryu, the other days I'd choose Blanca, the next day I'd choose Sagat, whatever. And he just comes up to me and he's like, hey, Sean, he's like, I think that you should just choose one character and master that character. And I said, okay, all right. I mean, sound advice, right?
Yeah.
Because he was, he cared enough to tell me that, right? You know, he
Right.
could have just let me just go there and just you know, continue the beatdowns and the whole thing. But he cared enough to come up and said, "Hey, maybe you do this instead. You know, maybe you try this." So I said, "Okay, all right. Well, you know, who should I choose?" And he said, "Just spin the joystick a few times. Okay, 1 spin, 2 spin, 3 spin." And then we let go of it, and then guess what it happened to go to?
With the
Claw.
claw.
Yeah, so he said, "Here, just use this guy." Okay, boom. So I get it, and then that was it. I had no idea Claw was top tier or anything like that. That was just the character that happened to go on there. This is the first time I think I've ever used Claw in my life. Was right then and there. So to clear this up, okay, it's not just some sort of super secret cabal of Claw organizers, whatever, United. No, it's just happened to pick him off of basically a random joystick spin. Because of the advice that one of the Singaporean players gave me, was like, "Hey, you know, just choose one character, master it. Okay, spin, Claw. Okay, master that guy. Perfect. There we go." So that's it. That's the beginnings of UltraSean and Claw. It was very innocuous like that, nothing big. so just it could have been Blanca, man. It could have been Geef. You know, but luckily, you know, it came out to be Claw, so I had a little bit of an advantage there. Okay. And then, so you and I, real quick, are going to do just a fast run through, because again, Claw, people are like, "Oh, Claw." So you and I are going to give the people a quick overview of an anti-Claw strat for each character. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. So first we'll go with Geef. Okay. So tell me Geef's options against Claw. Just a couple of them, just a short deal.
So, if you're dealing with wall dies, one of it being is Lariat, the other one's being with Crouch Fierce, and the third thing would probably be like Jump Back Fierce or Jump Back Roundhouse or so, or Jump Medium Punch, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, and if he kind of does the Claw, you know, try to cue balls over you improperly, you can just headbutt it as well. So there's that.
So the instant stun, right? The jump headbutt instant stun?
Yep, the instant stun, yes.
Okay, there we go. Boom. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So we got Ryu. Okay, so we got Claw versus Ryu. It's really in favor of Claw, the matchup, but Ryu, like if Claw starts going off the wall crazy and all that, you know, the jumping medium punch, the juggle punches.
Yeah.
Those will take off a decent amount of damage. Get the knockdown, set Claw up for the nice vortex like mix-ups, the Tatsu mix-up that Ryu has. Pretty easy deal. Or you have the John Choi, which he'll get Claw at the corner. As soon as Claw tries to jump up on the wall, dive out, he'll just go do a hurricane kick off of that. Like you do a jump hurricane kick and knock you out of the air. Okay. So you have any more for Ryu?
I would say, like, besides the Super Mario Punch, shout out to Riz with that one. The Super Mario Punch, jump back roundhouse, air Tatsu as well is another one. It's kind of funny with him because it feels like with him you gotta kind of stop. I mean, I feel like Super sometimes does not. I feel like it doesn't really matter too much, to be honest with you. Considering that the fact that Claw, you know, Claw how he kind of operates in that matchup, his feet is lava. So it's like, you know, it's one of those things that you kind of have to kind of take a test into with that one. So I would say those other options, I would probably put that as well there.
Yeah. Just really, those Mario punches, they work pretty well against Claw, and just proper spacing and all that. He can be dealt with. Like it's tough, but there are some Ryus that are crafty enough to be able to do that too. So let's go ahead and move on to Ken. I think the obvious choice for Ken is, here's the easiest tip: if Claw goes off the wall and you're anywhere but the opposite corner, just do a Fierce Dragon Punch and then knock him off the wall. Easy.
Pretty much. I feel like with him, that matchup is, I mean, it's still in Claw's favor, but it's like, it's not. How can I say it? It's like it's a good matchup. That's the thing. It's a good matchup for Ken, because Fierce DP definitely shuts down a lot of those options, which is why Claw has to, like. I feel like to get started, he has to give Ken the knockdown and then kind of go from there. But then again, you don't want to be too obvious with your wall dives, because Ken will snipe you out of the air. Or if he's one of those Kens that has like really good, you know, backwards DP, and instead of doing it from the front, he got it from the back. Then that's like one of
Does
those
the
things.
cross cut or whatever, right?
Yeah,
when
the
the
cross
cloud
cut.
flies
That's what
over
it
him.
is. Yeah, the cross cut.
Yeah.
If he has cross cuts, then you can't go off the wall against him. I'm sorry.
Correct. Yeah.
can't.
And once you get the knockdown with Ken, with both versions of Ken, with new Ken, you just do the mix up, the jumping punch and the Tatsu mix up.
Yeah.
Makiri does that super well. Him and I fought some fights, and man, they are frustrating because he has that down on lock. And even with Oken too, the threat of getting just hit with one knockdown, light DP, very tough, man, very tough to deal with. And yeah, his claw with Oken, or with any Ken, but Oken too, especially like if you go up on the wall without just Raw by himself, you're gonna get hit with the fierce DP. It's done. And you're gonna get hit by a ton of damage because he hits like a truck too. Okay, so we got Ryu, Ken. Both Oryu and Ryu have the same deal. Oryu has to work a little bit harder because he doesn't have those jumpy medium punches, but again, he hits very hard too as well. You got that good standing fierce punch, when he's trying to cross you up. The standing fierce punch can hit pretty good.
Between stand fierce and jump roundhouse, it's the two obnoxious buttons of old Ryu. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The jumping round has huge freaking hitbox, man. Both of them, the neutral jump and and just the diagonal one. Yeah. Okay, so we got Ken, Ryu. Let's go ahead and we got Zangief out of the way. Let's go ahead and go to Sim. Sim is I think if you play it like Ito, man, he just traps you in the corner, gets some nasty corner traps going on, and it's hard to explain, but the best thing I can say is just watch videos of Ito versus myself, Hokuto, whatever, and you're gonna see once he gets that corner trap, it's extremely difficult to get out. So just corner trap away.
You just
I mean, that's
in that matchup you cannot get knocked down. You can't. It's just you have to be 100% offense in that matchup. That's the thing. That's Sim. You have to be. Yeah, I mean, you can play defense, but I feel like defense sometimes, well, I can't even say sometimes. Most times it's not going to get you anywhere. Because one knockdown and then that's GG's. That's literally what it is.
Yeah. It's very, very difficult for Sim to deal with the heel dolls once they're going. But when it's at the neutral and Sim is being very aggressive, a lot of times Claw's buttons will lose to whatever Sim's trying to do, like drills and whatnot. So again, crafty Sims like Ito specifically, I think he's the cleanest one to watch as far as that matchup goes, because he's grinded against Hokuto so many times. He has it kind of perfected, and get him in the corner, get Claw in the corner, and just go to town with the mix-up. So again, I can't explain it myself, but just watch Ito's videos against Claws and you'll see what he does. Okay, so we got Sim done. What are we talking about? How about we got Dictator next?
So it's funny. I think that matchup, I remember Riz would say Dictator fights Claw pretty well. So I feel like Claw wins it, but not as much, like slightly, to be honest with you, because Dictator can kind of match him in the air. That's one thing. And ground game aside, I feel like they're both pretty even in terms of that. I think the reason why Claude, I feel like he slightly wins is based off of when he gets the knockdown, then it's like, well, aside from Super for Dictator, he has no reversals. So it's like one of those situations that you kind of have to be mindful of. But I feel like, if you can play it really patiently, because you can pretty much snipe Claw out of the air, jump roundhouse, jump medium punch.
Jump those juggles, yeah. Those juggles are nice because those will push you to the corner too as well. They'll push Claw to the corner, and then in the corner it gets real scary for Claw because even just hitting a Dictator crouching medium kick can lead to some pretty nasty consequences into dizziness, from the Dictator to the Claw. So and then once you get dizzy out there, it's bam, bam, bam. The 3-hit combo is dead. You're dead, just like that.
Facts. Good. So what's the next character?
So next character we'll say Sagat. That one's a tough one for Claw. But what can we do? What strats are there for Sagat? I know the jumping. A lot of people use the jumping jab jump forward jab once they see Claw go to the wall.
Jump jab, jump medium punch.
Yes.
Jump jab, jump medium punch. Those are pretty good hitboxes. But I would say like one of the biggest things, use old got. That's one thing. But then the other thing is just that I feel like if you're unless you're like between Japan old gots or Yandame or here in America Ultra Combo, then you're kind of gonna you're gonna have a hard time. I feel like you have to be hyper offensive because you have to be in his face. That's for sure. But I feel like when you know which side of the wall he's gonna go off of, then yeah, it's completely simple to just go and attack him. That's for sure. But
yeah,
that matchup is hard because the way how Sagat is structured, he's too tall, and the claw sort of goes behind him, and it's like, man, how you expect him, anti that? You know what I'm saying? So
yes,
it's pretty difficult. It's pretty difficult. But I would say like I'm not gonna rate it 7-3 or 8-2. I'm gonna just say it's a solid 6-4 for sure.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think one of the ultra combos, one of Muck's deal is what is use some fireball traps, right? Push the claw to the corner, do some fireball traps, then give him a split second to see if he's going to jump out or not. You're going to get hit with a DP or maybe a crouching roundhouse. Or even if you do some fireball traps and then sometimes you throw a couple low tiger shots, throw a high tiger shot, it'll catch Claw if he's trying to get out of it with the wall dive too. So that's another way. Again, Sagat doesn't have many mix-ups, but he can still do some damage, especially using S-Got or the old Got, but just keeping those fireball mix-ups. So again, watch Ultra Combos videos, except for anybody gets Mao, because Mao gets around all that stuff, man, like you wouldn't believe. But for pretty much any other Claw, just watch Ultra Combos videos and how he deals with the claws and the fireball patterns that he uses, because it's very valuable for that matchup. Okay. Next one, who do we got? Okay, how about Boxer? Let's go ahead and go down the line.
I find that matchup to be interesting. I find that matchup even, only because Boxer can deal with the wall dives with headbutt, and he can deal with claws neutral as well pretty well.
Yes.
So I think that matchup is like, I feel like Claw sort of has to work harder in that matchup because Boxer, as a wall he is, it's one of those situations that, man, it's kind of tough to kind of really take him down. That's the thing. And then at the same time, your wall dives has to be on point against him. So
yes.
You can't just do any random wall dive because you're gonna get sniped with headbutt. That's another thing. And then the biggest mix-up is the grab. Go walk under mix-up, and then you kind of trap.
Yeah, crouching, forward, and then right into the grab, and then back and forth, walk back underneath and back. Crouching into grab again. Yeah,
exactly. So that's it's troublesome because that is supposed to throw you off in terms of your flip kicks. So it's like one of those situations. Yes. I'm like, yeah, you kind of have to be careful. So I would probably put that as thing.
If you hit the backflip, if say he's trying to do that mix up on you and you just do the backflip, all Boxer has to do is just keep walking towards you and then grab you again, because you're just backflipping and then you're just so smart boxers will do that. They'll see Claw try to get out of it because they can't do the flip kicks or they can't do the Scarlet Terror. So the only reversal really is to just try to reversal throw or backflip out of it. But if Claw backflips, he's still vulnerable. You just got to keep walking forward and grab him again. I think where's that trick where if Claw tries to dive to the other side of the wall and Boxer's charged, what they'll do is as soon as Claw passes Boxer's like hitbox, then they'll hit or let go of what's like kick or something, and he'll end up doing the high rush. He'll do like an autocorrect high rush or upper rush or whatever. So that'll catch Claw on the way to the other side of the wall too as well. So that's another trick you can use, So it is a little bit tough. Yeah, headbutts will definitely sometimes Boxer has he has that hitbox on his ass. His
hitbox is so freaking weird, bro. Like he's just it's just a wall, bro. Even when he's crouching, it's the exact same thing. But when he stands up, it's like he has no low hitbox, which is weird. So, I don't want to be wrong about that one, but his hitbox is damn well weird though. So.
Yeah, even like the cross ups are very strange on him. When I'm doing the dives, like you're doing the dives trying to hit him, but at the same time you're almost like hoping that his headbutt gets him out of the way so you can try to slide him. It's not like where you can just dive. You have to, usually you're going to end up sliding him or doing something else because that headbutt's taking him out of the way too. So, but there's some tips against boxers. So let's see here. How about we go for, how about Hawk? How about T-Hawk?
It's funny. I feel like that matchup, Claw wins, but I feel like when he gets knocked down, it's over. So, I mean, old Hawk, better normals. New Hawk, I mean, his normals is pretty crappy. So I would probably put new Hawk versus Claw like 7-3, but old Hawk versus Claw, I'll probably put that 6-4. But when Claw gets knocked down, that becomes a whole 10-0. Because you have to, you have to guess the soccer kicks.
For sure, yeah. Just you're gonna get OS to death basically, and so it's not it's extremely difficult for Claw to get the reversal off that. So if you're a Hawk and you know what you're doing as far as getting the Socko tick or just getting the negative edge, okay, then it will be over, especially if Claw's if Hawk's in the corner and you as a Hawk player has good execution. That's it. It's game over. So basically, the game plan is look for Claw's pokes, what he's doing, and see if you can intercept it with his not the Condor dive, but his DP, and get a knockdown, and then just go to town, push Claw to the corner, and then that's it. Game over. That's I hate to say it to make it sound like basic like that, but that's the reality of it. It gets extremely difficult for Claw once he gets pushed to the corner, because it's likely a checkmate type situation if the Hawk knows how to execute. Okay, got to put that disclaimer there. Let's see, Blanca.
That's I feel like that matchup is pretty doable for Blanca. What really got him going against Blanca is ball on hit is unsafe. Ball on block is unsafe. Pretty much up ball. If you catch an up ball, if you do an up ball on him and he blocks, I mean, if you get the knockdown, then that's good, to say the least. But sometimes it'll trade, so that's still sort of unsafe. So, your Blanca has to take the risk to do it. But I feel like it's still a doable match for him because I feel like he has to not per se. I mean, per se, he has to get the knockdown. But the other thing he has to do is just that, he has to anticipate the wall dash. That's the thing before he gets his shenanigans started. Without that, it's difficult.
Yeah, it'll be. I think for Blanca, it needs to be mix-up city. You do have to get the knockdown. And once you get Claw knocked down, you really got to smother him and go for bite mix-ups and high-low mix-ups, that type of deal. Also for newer Blanca players, so if you're a Blanca player and you're fighting an inexperienced Claw and they go for a wall dive, you can hit him with the up ball. But if you do fight an experienced Claw, you have to be advised that he's likely setting you up. So what's happening is he's going to get you maybe with a slide knockdown or some sort of knockdown. He's going to go off the wall. You're anticipating I'm going to hit him with the up ball, but then as soon as he gets off the wall, he's going to extend the Claw and you're going to ram your ball right into his Claw. So be wary of that. I think a lot of people are like, I'll just up ball Claw all day. But no, the smart Claw players will shut that down pretty good and force Blanca to stay in the ground. So as Blanca, you have to get in, get the mix-up started, and then just go to town. Because, again, you can exploit Claw's Scarlet Terror if you what was it, like crouching medium into the hop, right? And hop to the other side of him. And then now there's nothing charged. He has no way to do it. And now you can start the mix-ups. It's a tough matchup for Blanca for sure. But, yeah, it is doable. I think some of these Japanese Blancas that I find online, man, they're pretty sick, man. Yeah. They mix you up all day. It's pretty nasty to see. So that's so it's doable, but you got to mix it up. You got to go. I mean, if you can get away with doing with the jump lights and all that to get in and do cross ups, do whatever you can to get that mix up on there. It's otherwise you're gonna get basically slashed to death, poked to death by Claw. And yeah, if you just do a ball, right, Fierce Ball, you're going to get hit with the standing Fierce. So don't do that under any circumstance against an experienced Claw. Okay, Cammy, this is a little bit tough one here.
So I feel like, I feel like I said, it's doable because of her DP, because it has that arc, like how Ken's Fierce DP travels. But it's pretty hard. That matchup is pretty hard for her. Like, she does have, like, I would say there's a normal that she could stop with, but it's trades, so yeah, I would probably say like 7-3. That matchup is hard. I mean, the only thing is, I would say, is her low forward is somewhat better than Claw's, so I'd probably say that for sure. That is like, it's definitely better for sure. But yeah, folks, it seems like I think it seems like pretty much what happened is UltraSean. Oh, there he goes. He's back now. Don't worry.
Hey, okay.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm just adding all this to the episode, by the way. So.
All right. No, it's all uncut.
It's uncut. That's how it is. It's uncut, uncensored, raw. There's no editing. That's all. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the phone now. We downgraded. I'm not on the nice mic. I'm on the phone now.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So you can hear it. You can hear it. But I was saying, like, that matchup's hard for Cammy. So yeah, I can see why.
Yeah. Cammy's options are if a Claw just goes up for a raw dive, yeah, just hit your roundhouse dragon punch, and you can knock him out of the air. If you're good with the hooligans, if you're get Claw in the corner and you can start some hooligan mix-ups, and unless the Claw is really looking out for it, a lot of times you'll be able to catch him with that, and then just continue the pressure right there. Crouching medium kick works pretty well to stop a lot of what Claw does. I think when that first to 5 I did against Jack Tiaf, that's on my channel. If you can check it out, there is a lot of times where he would stop me with that crouch medium kick. He'd be waiting for it, and whenever I try to do the roll or something, he'd catch me right out of the rolling crystal meth with that crouching medium kick. So that's one thing that definitely can use. Let's see, who else do we have left? So Guile. Okay, Guile's a good one.
Okay, Guile. So as far as I've seen, and I'm gonna wholeheartedly say, unless you're like, that's another hard matchup. Unless you're Mars Gotti or Kotaka, or even Kotaka, or even who's another one, like Yaya, or so. Good. I mean, good luck in that matchup. That matchup sucks. So. Or actually, I should say recently, Mr. Carabano. He's gotten really good in the matchup as well. So
Carabano's extremely good. He's extremely solid. So he's him and I have a lot of battles, and a lot of times they would go both ways. 100%.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's see. As far as the strats, like little quick tips for the strats. Okay, so if Claw goes for a raw wall dive, he's likely trying to bait you out. Okay, he's trying to bait out a flash kick so he can punish it. So if you're a Guile player and you see Claws, if you see a Claw do a raw wall dive and you do a flash kick and then he punishes it with say a crouch fierce or whatever, then the next time you do that raw wall dive, maybe throw like a jab sonic boom or something, and Claw can maybe land on that, and then you can kind of start the mix up from there. Also, when you get Claw in the corner, I don't know if you've noticed a pattern with things when Claw gets in the quarters, when things get very tough for him. So when Claw's in the corner, then you can start, hitting with like crouching lights and throwing a crouching medium kick there and all that. And there's some OS tech actually that Carabano uses, Mars Gotti, all them, that they use to kind of keep Claw in the corner and stack there. And also be careful when Claw's walking you down, because he's trying to slide into you. So I think a good button to match that is the rolling Sobat. I think the rolling Sobat will stuff the slide in a lot of situations. So keep that in mind. If you have a slide happy Claw, the rolling Sobat kick, the Van Damme kick, will definitely kind of stop him from spamming those buttons too. So those are probably the best things I can kind of come up with now at the point. Oh, also if Claw's trying to dive and you can do a jump back fierce, also has a good enough hitbox to usually knock Claws out of the air too. So jump back fierce is a nice option. I think that's a pretty good option. And then Okay, so who we left with then? Let's see. We've gone through. DJ. Okay, let's go with DJ.
That that's another one that I find even. I feel like one of the biggest things is that matchup is like DJ has the tools to match up with them. And I feel like the up kicks is definitely one of them. The up kicks is definitely one of them. The other thing is the machine gun upper is pretty good as well. So that's another really good one as well. Even though DJ's fireballs sort of suck, it's still sort of good in that matchup. So, and he has the button to really air to air a lot. So I'd probably say, like I said, I feel like that matchup is pretty even. That's the thing. Like, people would say Claw slightly wins it, but I feel like it's even.
It's pretty tough, especially if the DJ has those up kick reversals on point.
Yeah.
As a Claw player, you really have to angle your dive in the way that they're gonna miss, but that's very tough to do. You have to be kind of advanced to do that. I think a good even the fireballs or like DJ's his flashes are they work. They'll catch Claw a few times, and then if Claw was just raw wall dives out of there, you're probably going to be able to hit him out with the kicks. Mm-hmm. One of the matches, if anybody really wants to study that match, is Mao versus Fujimon Star Cup 19, that finals, and Fujimon ended up taking it over Mao.
Right.
So yeah, if you want to see the highest level about how that one is played, use that one, and you're going to see that Mao doesn't do a whole lot of wall dives because I think he knows that the reversal kicks and the machine gun uppers are coming, and so he's trying to play it safe on that one and just use the normals and all that too. So that's one to consider. Okay, let's see here. So Fei Long.
That's another tough one for him. That's a tough one because I feel like you have to have DPs on point with him. That's the thing. Like the DPs has to be on point. Between that or I would say it's between that or you have like the chicken wing as well. Because chicken wing, when you kind of do it, you're airborne, so you're kind of like not on the ground for when it happens. But
yeah,
I feel like his best bet has to be DP. That's the thing, because the way how his DP hits is like it's literally in the middle. So it's like it's not like it travels or anything like that. It's just that with him, it's just pretty hard. And then when you want to play grounded, I mean, I feel like ground-wise, he has really good button. Crouch Fierce is really good. His Rekkas, I mean, it's kind of hard because I feel like if you try to stagnate the Rekkas against Claw, you get punished anyway. So it's I feel like it's one of those things that when Fei has Claw in the corner, then that's when his opening to win is, because Claw's best reversal has to be pretty much flip kick or go off the wall. But then, the Fei has to be ready pretty much at all times, though.
100%. So so on the ground, or I will say just in the neutral and the mid, the mid screen, on the ground, just like you said, Crouch Fierce is great because that does stuff a lot of Claw's buttons, and Claw's approach has to be more measured on that. Has to be, okay? If you just do random chicken wings out of nowhere, I can guarantee you're going to get hit by a Scarlet Terror. I can guarantee you get hit by Scarlet Terror. So don't do, whoever Fey players out there, just don't do just random chicken wings because Claw's going to hit you with the Scarlet Terror. You're going to get the juggle, you get the mix-up, okay? The Dragon Punch works pretty well, and Fei's game plan is you're going to push Claw to the corner. Once Claw gets in the corner, it's extremely difficult for him to get out, especially because Fei can do that, do the chicken wing to get you in position, then hit you with a stand Fierce, and then cancel that into another chicken wing, and do that over and over and over again. And you're going to get mixed up at some point. You're going to get tossed. You don't know when it's going to come, against good Feis. So for those Fei players, study how to do that. Once Claw's in the corner, study that little mix-up where you're just, stand Fierce into chicken wing mix-ups over and over again, and then throw in throws here and there. If you can anticipate when Claw's gonna poke you, that's when you throw out the flame kick, right, and knock him down, and then just continue the pressure out there. Hard for Fei. Just again, avoid the raw chicken wings out of nowhere because you're going to get Scarlet Terror. But Crouch Fierce works as a very good button. Push Claw to the corner and then continue on that pressure like that too. So yeah, that's a good one. And then I think we're coming up to pretty much almost the end. Chun-Li. How about let's go with Chun.
I feel like that matchup is very interesting. She has, I mean, we all say how blessed this woman is. I mean, I think she has pretty much a good amount of buttons to do it. Like, I feel like that matchup is, I mean, in my opinion, I feel like that matchup is, that's another even matchup for Chun against Claw. Because she has the air-to-air buttons to combat the wall dash. She has the ground buttons to combat Claw on the wall dive. And she has the reversal upkick, upkicks, they really do so as well too. So
yes.
I find that match to be pretty, I rate it like it's pretty difficult. Sort of like how DJ had to face Claw. I rate it pretty much the exact same way because in hindsight, she can smother him and just like being in his face all the time. But the difference is just that, man, you can't just like, you can't let up. As a Claw main, you have to like keep her away from you. And you have to keep her away from you and outplay her in the neutral as well. So
yes,
I feel like that matchup is even. So yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy. So we'll say, okay, so you look, of course, all the Japanese greats. That's one thing you look at. If you want to look at a current like U.S. player, okay, we were talking about Technical Monkey, right? Yeah. And also someone like Snoopy Gogo. Okay, you just look at their usage of a crouch medium kick. How many freaking normals does that thing stuff? It stuffs a lot of people's normals, including Claws too. If Claw and Chun, like if those hitboxes interact, Chun wins on those. You just crouching medium kick, easy. Does decent damage, does that. Chun gets smother Claw, just like I said, you smother him. You just, it's a, what are the OS, right? Hit forward and medium punch over and over again until you finally get the throw, until you finally get the 25% damage throw or whatever. It works. It does. Either Claw's gonna block until he gets thrown or whatever, but it's not easy to counter throw, Chun stuff. And again, too, got to watch out with the dives because those up kicks, if they're timed correctly, they can knock Claw out of the air easily. So Claw has to be a lot more crafty about dealing with that. So Chun does have, those tools in order to deal with Claw. And then I think we're about almost at the end of the list. We're looking on Honda. Let's talk about Honda real quick.
I think Honda has what it takes. That matchup is very, I would say that matchup is very interesting because I feel like regardless of, you can wall dive Honda, but it's like just like how you explained it with DJ, you can't just wall dive for free against Honda. That's the thing, because he has reversal headbutt that will snipe you. He has butt slam, but butt slam works, I want to say maybe 50% of the time, really, because it really it depends on the trajectory of the wall dive. That's one thing.
Correct.
And basically, Honda on the ground, I feel like he is very tough to deal with because you don't want to throw out stray buttons because you can get clipped with a headbutt. That's one thing. And then the other thing is his 100 hands is too damn good against Claw, especially when Claw is blocking a lot. So it's like one of those situations that you kind of have to be aware of. And then the worst part is trying to knock him down too, because that's also dangerous as well too. So Claw has to play a lot of possum to really kind of get started in that matchup the way how he wants to, to go about it. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Claw definitely so Claw has to stick and move in this one. A Honda is, I would say, like from the front, you can't really attack him from the front. You can, but a lot of times Honda's buttons will just outmaneuver yours, or will just straight up beat it no matter what. Even if it's like a crouch or standing jab, something like that would beat a lot of Claw's buttons. So really for Honda, you just watch what he's doing and how his dives are coming along. And I like a lot of Hondas will, if they see a raw dive going like across their screen. They'll just wait till across the screen, then just do a jump jab, boom, catch you in the corner, on the way down, and then they start the Oicho ups right there in the corner. And then once you're in the corner, then it's a 50-50. It's always a 50-50. Not my kind of odds, okay? I don't want 50-50 odds. I want higher than that. So for Honda, once he's in the corner, once Honda gets Claw in the corner, you do the Oicho mix-ups, and it's either Oicho or maybe you can throw in like the light up butt slam or whatever, and they will catch Claw, knock him down again. He's going to get dizzy, boom. So continue the Oicho mix-ups, get the damage in the corner. The butt slams, they work to get out of the situations, but you have to be careful because Claw will slide them. Good Claws will slide those butt slams. You know, they know the trajectory and they know exactly when to slide out there too as well. Luckily, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage to Honda, but Claw can slide them and then get Honda in the corner. The one good thing about Honda getting pushed to the corner is that now Claw doesn't have access to those mix-ups because he has to face Honda from the front, and all Honda has to do is just hold back.
Yeah.
And then wait till Claw tries something, and then the headbutt. You get the jab headbutt out, and then you're golden too. So it's pretty, the game plan it's simple enough for Honda. What I'd say, jump forward or jump back jab usually has a good hitbox to catch Claw out of the air, get him in the corner, go for the Oicho mix-ups and the butt slam mix-ups, and then also just watch out for the butt slam in neutral though, because Claw can probably slide it and then just get some damage off there too as well. So you might be able to find a different neutral anti-air for that situation. And then man, I think the only one left is Claw versus Claw, but that thing is such a crazy Marvel versus Capcom-esque match that that's I mean, there's no reason to talk about that one. That's up to Claw players, including myself, to sort it out.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing to really talk about that, but
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But so there you go, guys. There was some little bit of discussion on how to deal with Claw because he is dealable, and just like we were saying earlier, like I was saying earlier, you are going to come up against Claw players in tournaments, online, all this. There are ways to defeat him, and there are ways to go about it. So don't just be like, oh, it's Claw, let's ban him, blah 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 blah. No, just get good and figure out how to beat him, and then look, now you can go, wow, I can take down this Claw player. Now you might not be able to beat Hokuto, but if you get close to beating Hokuto, then yeah, maybe you can beat me. You know what I mean? You you just, again, that effect is what happens. You fight your strongest opponent. That way, the opponent directly underneath that one is now handleable. So there we go. We got some Claw matchups going on there too. If you see me on Discord, I'm usually in the hyper fighting room or in the Riz court or whatever. If you see me on there, if you have any questions about Claw play, I'll be happy to answer it for you too as well. Give you some tips and tricks and all that. So if you see me on social media, whatever, just hit me up, and if you got questions about it, I'll be here to answer it, no problem.
That's good because I'm glad you said that, because that's another question I was going to ask you, where people can find you at. So
okay,
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to be in the description anyway, folks, but you can tell them where to pretty much find you at anyway.
Okay, so I don't have a whole lot of social media. Let's see here. The ones I'm mainly active on is on Discord now, and you'll see me. I think it's just UltraSean, Ultra_Sean, something like that. You'll see me in the hyper fighting room, and again the Riz court, the usually in the Super Turbo channel or whatever. If you do, okay, so everybody's on YouTube, so you can check out my channel. It is Street Fighter 2 TV. And it is, if you run across SF2 TV, that is DJ Ilk's channel. They're actually separate channels, but there is some confusion on there about whatever it is too. So also go check out DJ Ilk's channel. He has runs a great stream, is also really doing good with the Street Fighter 2 community, and getting a lot of views and getting people back into Street Fighter 2 as well. But again, mine is Street Fighter 2 TV, and a lot of content. I have a lot of videos of me playing people, like long form sets, as well as like other random stuff. If you ever want to see Street Fighter 2 mixed with the Wild West, well, go to my channel, go check it out. You'll probably be like, what the hell is this? But it's always interesting. Always trying to get something interesting going too as well. Yeah, that's I think that's about it. Not too much. Anything else that we have to add, Ant?
No, not really, man. I think that's pretty much settled, seals the deal right there. So, folks who's watching, you can totally find his socials pretty much in the description. And if you have, like he said, if you have any questions about Claw, definitely go right to this man. Besides Hokuto, I would totally recommend seeing this man for sure. He's very, very well knowledgeable with Claw for sure. And you know, and also give him a follow as well. Especially if you definitely want to learn Claw, he's a man to really go to as well. So, yeah. But Sean,
Well, I guess I should say that I'm also on Fight K2 as
oh yeah,
as
that's true.
UltraSean. So
Oh
you'll
yeah,
see me in those rooms, and if you're interested in the matchup, whatever, go ahead and send me a challenge out there. We'll play, and you'll kind of see where you're stacking up there, and what you need to improve on too. So yeah, that's about it.
absolutely.
Mm.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you being on this episode. This was a very good and very detailed episode, man. I greatly appreciate it. And it means a lot that you taking your time to definitely hop on and talk, shoot the shit with me in terms of this. So I appreciate you greatly for that.
Oh, and it was my pleasure, bro. It was my pleasure. I'm glad we finally got a chance to sit down and do so, and I'm glad that we got a chance to do it with a bit of an audience here too. So that was it's always a good time. Always a good time, no matter what. And yeah, I look forward to seeing more of your episodes, man, and seeing what you got in store for the future.
Yeah, man, I'm working on it, and I appreciate that greatly. But all right, folks, this has been another episode. Uh, tune in for pretty much the next one that you'll see coming in the next 2 weeks afterwards. But I appreciate everybody watching, and everybody enjoy your day. And I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. But yeah, anyway, everybody have a good day. Thank you for watching Mega Man Legends. Peace out.
Peace out.